Good evening, this is the Truro Planning Board for Wednesday, September 19th, 2018. It is 6:04 p.m. at Truro Town Hall. I am Stephen Solberg. I am sitting here being the chair of the Truro Planning Board, and I would ask the board to introduce themselves, starting with Mike all the way.
I'm Mike Roderick.
John Raymond.
Bruce Bowden.
Karen Tosh.
Paul Kieran, Peter Harridge.
And there you go. We are the planning board. The meeting is being recorded for future broadcast. If anyone else is recording the meeting, Tim
McCarthy.
McCarthy recording the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our beginning of our meeting is open for a little open discussion. If anyone has something to say to us pertaining to something that they would like on the agenda, so we limit that to a short amount of time. Is there anyone out there who wishes to make a statement about something that needs to be on the agenda? You want to make a statement about something about cannabis? Is
that okay, Steve?
Not actually, but I mean,
this will be irrelevant.
You can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ron Fickner, a member of the Board of Directors of the Truro Part-Time Resident Taxpayers Association. Yesterday, we would have gotten an email from us which summarized a few questions from a survey, an internet survey that we conducted in the last 2 days. It represents responses from about 500 individuals. Summarized our responses that are pertinent to, I think, the bylaw. But I'm here tonight to just talk about two items that were comments that don't directly relate to the bylaw. Or it's going to be on the agenda tonight. I think that's your decision. Well, yeah, there was a lot of comments that said that excise taxes and any other taxes that would come to the town as a result of sales of cannabis, be they wholesale or retail, those taxes should go to eliminate the residential tax exemption. And there was strong comment about that, because as you might guess, part-time residents have been reacting last year and again this year strongly to the existence and perpetuity potentially of the RTE. And the other comments that were prevalent had to do with the quality of cannabis, hoping that whatever gets enacted, there is some quality assurance, because there were some folks who live in other parts of the country, and there were a few who wrote in from Colorado who were concerned about quality assurance. So, do you have a copy of this? I can give you a hard copy.
And then we have
the quality of the product?
Yes, because it varies greatly.
Okay, I think that I appreciate that you're informing us what we do with the taxes. I don't think it's in our purview, but we don't get to decide what gets done with the taxes. And as far as the quality, there is testing labs that have to do all the testing, which is also outside of our ability. But I know that the co-op had made comments about their intent to provide the highest quality. That's all I can say. Since it's still new, we don't have any more answers on that.
Steve, let me just reinforce one point, and that is this survey was done in very hurry up over 7 or 8 days, and represents comments from 500 individuals who thought this topic was very important to respond to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How many public hearings did we held?
This is our fifth.
Well, this is actually not public
this
comment.
This is our
public hearing.
We had three public
hearings. Yeah.
And 2 deliberations.
That's right. It's always an issue to close a public hearing. Anyway, so the public hearing was closed, and we are deliberating on the bylaw that we're trying to provide the town for a fall town meeting. And I'm going to ask Peter to read the first item on our agenda.
Sure. Our first item, continue 2018-004 PB. Clerk Ray has filed an application for approval of a preliminary subdivision plan With the clerk of the town of Truro pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81S, and Section 2.4 of the town of Truro Rules and Regulations governing the subdivision of land with respect to property located at 23 Curry Road and Hardings Way, and shown on Truro Assessor's Map, Sheet 45, Parcel 131. Copies of the application are available for review at the town clerk's office, 24 Town Hall Road, Truro. This matter was continued from the September 5th, 2018 public hearing to allow for a site visit by the planning board.
And we did have a site visit,
We did.
and it's beautiful property. So, where does that leave us? So that took us to the amount of property there was, questions whether the Cape Cod Commission should get involved, and now you're here.
Surprise, surprise. Good evening, everybody. My name is Beth. I'm here with Claire Perry. Your planner was kind enough to provide me with, communication from John Eidman. We probably all know he's the chief regulatory officer at the commission, and he has indicated an opinion that this approval requires review by the Cape Cod Commission. First of all, it's a process I'm a little concerned that a member of the board would reach out independently. I'm a little concerned that a member of the board would reach out independently to the executive director as opposed to this board doing it as a board action. I'll reserve whatever action I take on that to a later date. I think Mr. Ivan makes an assumption, and he assumes that the land in question derives from a parcel of land which was 30 acres or more in 1994. And I'm not sure that's a correct assumption. I believe that it's an incorrect assumption. So without burying the lead here, what we're going to do is withdraw this application. And we're going to go back and I'm going to review the title history of this property and the ownership history of this property and prepare an analysis of the ownership of this property as of that date, and continuing from that day forward to determine exactly what acreage was owned by whom or was controlled by whom, during the relevant periods of the authority of review by the Cape Cod Commission. Because I think that will give this board a better opportunity to understand whether or not Cape Cod Commission review is mandated as a mandatory review under the Cape Cod Commission Act. So it's not something that I'm prepared to argue tonight, and I'm sure it's not something you want to look at tonight. Because the Perry properties, such as they are, have a very long and complicated history. So it's easy enough for somebody to think, well, it's the Perry property, it's a large piece of property, but when you dig into who owns what, and which family members own what and when, I think there's a question of fact as to whether or not there was ownership and control of 30 acres or more, and whether this particular application derives from a parcel that was 30 acres or more. So leaving that where it is, we're going to...
What we are looking at is a preliminary subdivision.
I understand. So we are going to request, I don't think we need to request, we're going to withdraw it. But that being said, before we withdraw this application, we're sitting here.
I know, you are.
And you went out there and looked at the property, and I think you probably all formed your own opinions about this. We'd love to just have the benefit of those opinions. Just so that we can, because part of what's going to happen is it's not only going to be an analysis of the ownership of the property, but it's going to be an application for a division of land, whether it's approval not required or a 4-lot or sub-4-lot division, or whether it's a full-spec definitive plan. I'm not sure what it's going to be, and I don't think Claire knows what it's going to be, but we would love to just at least have 5 minutes of the benefit of your expertise and your review of the property, and your understanding of the property. It will help us, I think it will help us help you.
Well, from my perspective, I saw that the road would be quite a long distance, and it seemed as though it might be the one hindrance, in my view, of a dead-end road that would be approximately 2,000, no matter where you guys are at.
Sure, we understand.
So that had the road a way to continue on, that would just take that off the board completely. And that would solve a major hurdle for me. I won't speak for everyone on the board, and if you want to hear any specifics from the board members, on any other things, I will ask them if they have anything, because we don't actually discuss all of this.
Sure.
You know, so
If it makes sense, you want it. I mean, look, nobody, Christ,
I think it's only fair. It's a preliminary subdivision. Even the Cape Cod Commission said, you know, you can sort of work around a little bit without stepping on anybody's toes here. So, you have anything to say about it? Or-
No comment.
No comment. I'm gonna have to leave it to say that it only.
First, no
Yeah.
comment.
Where was that from?
it is what it is. So, but I thank you all for your time, and we will let you work for the
Okay, so that's a withdrawal without prejudice. All those in favor? Oh, I guess we didn't have a motion. I mean,
Move to allow withdrawal without prejudice.
yeah, and a second from somebody. Whoever you left, that's it. Bruce seconded it, and then we'll vote again. Okay, so, any abstaining?
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, let's take a few minutes break so that we can get town council on the phone and set up for the marijuana bylaw open deliberation.
Okay.
Go through the text. I'm not sure that you have a specific version to go through. Is that, and I haven't read through what we were looking at. I'm just looking through.
Whatever the one that, I printed out copies, so.
Oh, you bring that up?
Yeah, if anyone doesn't have what I sent out last Monday,
Yeah, I'd like,
I can
just to
send
be
you
sure.
one. Okay.
No, because you're in the right.
Does anybody on the board need a copy of what we were talking about? You got it? Paul?
The last thing I printed that out.
Yeah, I got rid of all that. My printer doesn't print color, so. Too small. I spent decades working with red lines. I don't like them, but
Does anyone else want a copy of the bylaw? Or does everyone
I handed them all out.
Okay.
Most people took them.
Do you want one? Yeah.
Yes, please.
I'll make a couple.
Hi, John.
Hey, how you doing, Steve? Hey, Bruce. Hey, Peter.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good. Okay.
No, I should get you.
If you see
actually have to sign. Yeah, I see that. I go, I'm
And in
at
1875,
I like a 17. They don't do it to you.
I like to zoom to 200%.
The very great-great-great-great-grandfather. It was, they were active in generations. Huge warehouses.
Thank you for taking me as a doc. I was sure.
About 1835.
Sort of stuff right there.
They were cutting down all the trees. But being principle, they fished out.
Thank you very much.
Yes. It's as of the 6th, yeah, we left off.
Thank you.
Our last.
You know, the point is, you can go care for it. The Teddy Roosevelt's white suit.
Didn't we, I mean, we got pretty much. We didn't do that. I think I had highlighted the 50%, I think that's kind of where we left off, but
What are you pointing at, Chess?
H,
Where is Katie?
number 7.
She at home?
she's at home.
Hello, this is Katie.
Hi Katie, it's the Truro Planning Board.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Katie.
Can you hear everyone?
I can. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Sound good.
So at this time, we're going to resume our meeting and start with the second item on our agenda. Peter can read some of it or whatever.
You want me to read it? Sure. Our second item, continue deliberation by planning board, draft marijuana bylaw. The planning board will continue to deliberate on the proposed amendments to the town of Truro zoning bylaw for the purposes of regulating medical and adult use recreational marijuana establishments within the town, including establishments for the cultivation, processing, testing, product manufacturing, retail sale, and transportation of marijuana, which uses shall be limited to certain zoning districts and subject to the issuance of a special permit and site plan approval. The planning board will then vote to recommend the draft marijuana bylaw to the Board of Selectmen for the Truro Town meeting. The complete text of the proposed amendments are on file with the Truro Town Clerk, Truro Town Hall, 24 Town Hall Road, and are available for viewing during normal business hours, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, and at the town website. Too long to read. This matter was continued from July 25th, 2018, August 22nd, 2018, August 28th, 2018, and September 6th, 2018 public hearings.
Thank you. And we had spent quite a few hours on this. Got very close to the end.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, let me just make sure. Katie, can you hear us?
I heard Steve okay, but I couldn't hear. I think it was Peter speaking, maybe?
Oh, well, I'm pretty far away.
Yeah, the further away was a little bit harder to hear. It was kind of cutting in and out.
We'll have to speak up.
All right, yeah, everyone just make sure you really speak up loud in your microphones then for
As best we
Katie.
can.
Yep, I understand it's not ideal. Thank you for accommodating the schedule.
Okay, and since we are going to try to review through everything that we've done and solidify those areas where there's some mush, we might try to pick it up a little bit As I recall, we were very close to the end, and I don't know if we'll make it through everything again, rather than starting close to the end, to see whether we can just get there and then start over. In my mind, that might be best, but it will be confusing. So Katie, if you have the last 2 pages of what we have worked on, and it was additional provisions regarding cultivation, and I believe that our discussion was included in our discussion was that some of these sections would be moved to areas where they belong, and that we were in the midst of discussing, I think, number 7. And
What section was that, Mr. Chairman?
that would be on the last 2 pages. Okay, so it says additional provisions regarding cultivation, and that's H.
Okay.
Did you find that, Paul?
Yes, I have it.
Everyone have that? Yes, okay, so I'm just gonna read number 7 and try to finish, at least that we have the wording, and take our discussion right from there. I apologize if it's very confusing, but we will start at the beginning right after we go through this. And number 7 states, in the case of marijuana cultivators, the special permit application shall specify the amount of canopy proposed to be cultivated on each parcel utilized by the applicant. Any material change in the amount of canopy utilized at each parcel shall be promptly reported to the zoning enforcement officer and the Board of Appeals. For the purpose of this section, the term material shall mean an increase in canopy utilization of greater than 50% in a calendar year. In the event such change in canopy utilization in the determination of the planning board constitutes a material change in the intensity of use authorized under the terms of the special permit, the planning board may require the special permit holder to undergo further site plan review with respect to such parcel, comma, marijuana cultivation, no, that's a period I'm imagining. Marijuana cultivation in the residential district shall not exceed 25% of the parcel's gross square footage. I'm going to start with the wording that says I think it's the second sentence. Any material change in the amount of canopy utilized at each parcel shall be promptly reported to the zoning enforcement officer and the Board of Appeals. Now, is that correct?
That should be planning board.
Board of Appeals should change to planning board.
Great.
For the purpose of this section, the term material shall mean an increase in canopy utilization of greater than 50% in a calendar year. Material. Any material change in the Okay, is that the way you want this wording? Is that confusing to anyone?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Here we're speaking of proposed to be cultivated on each parcel. Well, some of the locations consist of more than one parcel. So here I would change the word parcel to location. And that would identify both a single parcel and possibly more than one adjacent parcels.
Is that satisfactory to Katie? Is that, did you hear that first of all? To change, okay, so now it says each parcel, and I believe that Paul is correct in saying that there may be multiple cultivators on a single parcel. If that is correct, then would location be a better term?
I think location would be okay, but we may want to clarify what we mean by location. I don't think location is a defined term.
Right, we don't have it defined.
We might either want to define it specifically in the definition section or just include something clarifying within the paragraph to indicate what we mean by location.
Yeah, I would imagine we would have to do that, to make sure that it's clear.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
should we also include a definition for parcel?
I can't argue that we would lose in defining any term that we're using here. Karen, have you had to work with any of these terms that make a difference to you as far as location, parcel?
Well, in one of the footnotes,
On
we had
the use
discussed
table?
that, yes, that,
This is on the use table, that would be page 3. Well, actually,
there's so many revisions, I'm not even sure what really is still in existence, but this footnote said that parcels, maybe we should define parcels and locations, because this footnote says the number of parcels in our district would be limited to 6 per craft marijuana cultivator. And a single parcel may consist of multiple lots as long as the lots are contiguous or adjacent and under common ownership. Each parcel shall be subject to site plan review. So I don't know whether we need to use the word location or parcel works.
and lot.
And we use the word lot as well.
I think we have to be consistent in the terminology for sure. We can't keep, changing the term. So I prefer to say parcel. And does anyone have a decent definition for the parcel that we could just pencil in for now?
I think the term that's used in that footnote, that footnote has not fully been vetted. I think we need to go back and look at that footnote.
Oh, yes, you're right, we do.
Skip over it in our initial review, but I like the fact that the parcel as defined in there includes basically the concept of location that we were just discussing. So even if that footnote changes, that defining parcel and using it consistently throughout in a way that refers to single location, whether or not there are multiple common owners, a reasonable way to approach that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, thank you.
in our definition section in zoning, we define lot. It says a parcel of land undivided by a street with definite boundaries, title to which is held in undivided ownership. So I'm thinking we may have to say, for purposes of this bylaw, we'll have to designate what a lot is, what a parcel is, or whatever other.
Well, I don't want to be inconsistent with the lot definition in our bylaw. So I don't want to use the word lot.
Yeah.
I think Paul's term, which was
Location.
location. It's kind of dry for everybody, right? Because none of those apply, none of these terms actually apply to cannabis. So if we start dragging the word cannabis into the meaning, we're going to alter everything about it. So a parcel is going to be a single defined location, or it will be multiple locations. I knew this wasn't going to be easy. That's I knew it. Well, for the sake of argument, we understand that we have to have that clearly defined, and I'm going to just read this one more time, and that's the same thing I'm starting with. Additional provisions regarding cultivation. And possibly after that discussion, we might have a better idea how to say this. In the case of marijuana cultivators, the special permit application shall specify the amount of canopy proposed to be cultivated on each parcel utilized by the applicant. Any material change in the amount of canopy utilized at each parcel shall be promptly reported to the zoning enforcement officer and the planning board. For the purposes of this section, the term material shall mean an increase in canopy utilization greater than 50% in a calendar year. In the event such change in canopy utilization in the determination of the planning board constitutes a material change in the intensity of use authorized under the terms of the special permit, the planning board may require the special permit holder to undergo further site plan review with respect to such parcel. Marijuana cultivation in the residential district shall not exceed 25% of the parcel's gross square footage. Anybody uncomfortable with the word parcel now? Still?
Well, that's not the main problem I think we have. And I think the problem is, we say in the first sentence, the special permit application. Now, I'm assuming that it will also mean the special permit shall specify the amount of canopy proposed to be cultivated on each location utilized by the applicant. So we will be giving out a special permit for a specific amount of canopy. And in the next section, and this canopy is also regulated by the state.
I know.
So the craft cooperative has to be within whatever tier they choose to be within, because that's the amount of money they'll be paying to the state and the state will be allowing. And then we say any material change in the amount of canopy. Well, any material change beyond the special permit is not allowed. So here we're saying that they can make a material change up to 50%. And that's a violation of the special permit.
Well, depends on how the special permit is worded, I'm sure.
Well, you know, I would think that it would make sense to put a limit, at least limiting what they're doing to what is allowable by the state.
That would be, by the state, the tiers are limits of...
5, 10.
Yes, but they have, I mean, to be perfectly at 5, it might be impossible. So I'm sure that there's going to have to be some kind of a...
Right, but
plus and minus.
let's say a 49% increase of 5 would be 7,500. So all of a sudden, you know, or 7,499 would still be not considered a material change. And do we want to do that? Or do we want to just say, how many square feet do you want? Is the state going to allow that square footage? You are in a residential area. If that's how much you want, that's what we permit. Anytime you want to change that, it's fine with us.
Provided.
But you've got to go to the state and get permission from the state to do that, and then you come to us and we set whatever the state limit is again.
That sounds like a nice discussion, but it doesn't sound like it's written in the bylaw.
I think what this section meant was you could apply for a tier 2 license with the state
Yes.
that authorizes you to grow up to 10,000 square feet in canopy. An applicant might present for a special permit, let's say 3 parcels, and they're going to grow 2,000 on each of those parcels. They're not going to grow 10. So the idea was they wouldn't have to come back and go through the whole process if they're only going to say the next year increase one parcel maybe by 1,000 square feet, so that they're still well under their state law limit of 10,000, their license limit, but they're just working with their various parcels within the co-op to say, well, this year instead of 500 square feet, I'd like to do 1,250 square feet. And so I think the idea was to spare them the expense and the time if it's not a 50% change, increase in canopy at any one location, any one parcel, that they wouldn't have to go back through that process. But if it is going to be greater than a 50% increase, for example, if the first application said we propose to grow 4,500 square feet of canopy on parcel A, and then they decide they want to do 8,000 or 9,000, I guess would be doubling, then they would need to come back for site plan review for that parcel. So I think that's what that meant. Katie, do you think am I explaining it correctly? So I don't think it's unreasonable not to make them, to let them increase a canopy on, using their 10,000 square feet of canopy on their various locations without having to come back every time, unless it's greater than a 50% increase on any one parcel of land.
Right, and I think that was the intent. I think that the greater than 50% number is highlighted because I think you have to look at the possibility of, somebody going to the state doubling that, basically the canopy limit. And if they're in the upper echelon, if they're going from 50,000 to 100,000, that's a pretty big jump. And so something less than that, you might want to review it at like a 25% increase if it was, 50,000 to 75,000, but that's still a big increase. The smaller numbers, it may not matter. So I think it's a tricky thing to figure out where you're sort of on a policy basis, where you want that review limit to sit, what percentage of one you want it to sit at.
Well, didn't we say earlier in this draft that the initial license tier would be tier 2, and that for any increase in the license tier, which is different than amount you're cultivating on any one parcel, any increase in the license tier would have to be resubmitted. So I think this section addresses again, what's going on at the various parcels cultivated by a co-op or by a cultivator or a micro business. So I think that and maybe that's a conflict that it's in there twice, but I'm fairly certain we've already said we're starting at tier 2 and you have to come back if you're increasing your tier.
We did that in the
tier
footnote.
language is in that footnote that I don't think we ever fully worked through. With that tier 2 limit and everybody agreeing on that, then I think that this provision makes a lot more sense. If you don't have that tier 2 production level and then every year thereafter they increase, then it opens it up a lot more with a 50% number. So I think those two sections have to be in there and interplay with each other in order for this to make sense.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Chad?
I know you said you were going to go over the entire bylaw once more, and you may want to revisit this in as much as how does this recognize this number 7, outdoor or indoor or any combination of those two? Respecting the size of the permit. For instance, if you had a 20,000 square foot canopy permit and you started out with an outdoor parcel, outdoor cultivation, are you then allowed to say, gee, I want to switch to containers now and put up a 20,000 square foot container.
Well, I'll let Katie answer. I would say,
Shall not be permitted.
I would say that addresses structures, and then it would be changing the site so that
That's a special.
site plan, review would be required if you're changing the structures on the property.
That's number 3, if you go back up from 7. If you didn't permit it in your special permit at the beginning, it doesn't become permitted unless you then go through another site plan review. That's how I read that.
So cultivation is the use, but we're further defining it or refining it to whether it's indoor or outdoor use?
Not in this number 7.
Right.
Okay. I'd like to move on. Yeah, I would like to move on. I'm just a little concerned, a little confused that the parcel or the location.
I don't really think we need to use the word location.
Just keep it as parcel.
Parcel, because in the earlier, in that footnote discussing parcels, a parcel can be like 3 lots, like if one person, like Pure Joy Farm, I think, is 2 lots. That would constitute one parcel under this bylaw. And then another parcel would be another person's farm. So that would be the second parcel. So I think parcel takes care of the location concern. Do you agree, Katie, or no?
Yes, one thing we might want to do is to extract that definition of parcel out of the footnote and put it in with the rest of the definitions. But I think that if you do that, then it's clear and upfront that we define parcel, what it means, and then the use of parcel in that section is absolutely adequate.
So should we take time right now? Well, we're almost at the end of this. Let's just see. Let's leave this wording and see what we have at the last item here, which is special permit and site plan review criteria. And these might expand at some point, I think. In addition to the special permit criteria of section 30.8 of this bylaw and the site plan review criteria of section 70 of this bylaw, the additional criteria shall apply to review of any RME or MMTC. Number 1, visual. Number 2, the odor. Number 3, resource use. Number 4, security. Are those satisfactory for the time being? Were there any additions?
So I would just note that the list, the visual order, resource, and security were really just placeholders that I put in there myself.
Yes, I noticed that.
So they weren't fleshed out to any degree, but they were something that I thought the board should consider if they wanted language. We felt that section 70 or section 30.8 did not already cover those issues. It's sufficient with the criteria to allow the board to reach that special and site plan review process.
Okay, I mean, let's leave them for now and then we should need to take up the wording. Perhaps we need to look at the use table at this point, if anyone wants to take that up, because we just skipped over it. And as you said, we need to pull a parcel definition out of the notes and possibly anything else. And I'd like to have us all have a use table that is the same. so that we're not going, that's supposed to be something else on your use table. So if you can pull that up, we should see whether we can all agree on what the use table will say.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
we did, as you stated, reach the end, but I think there's a couple of more areas that we haven't visited yet, and I'd like to bring them to your attention. One might be titled Sanctions and Remedies, and the other could be a severability clause. I think...
I'm sorry, Jack, I didn't hear the last thing you said.
It's going to repeat it in a second, and the other one was,
Severability clause.
okay, severability.
So the first was sanctions and remedies, which would specify the penalties for violation of the bylaw and whether non-criminal disposition will be available. We would need to specify who shall have standing to apply for enforcement of the bylaw and what remedies are available to one seeking enforcement. And we need to include an appropriate mechanism for administrative review.
And your severability clause, which is
Well, the severability clause, that's
when the site plan is
all bylaws.
rescinded.
All bylaws in general have a severability clause.
Okay. Everybody follows the rules in Truro.
Well, people follow the rules if they know what they are.
Any thoughts on those? Probably useful to have, to find out as far as would be. I can't imagine what they are at the moment.
Our bylaw does have a severability clause in it. I'm just trying to find the section.
The one that
So that would-
the one that we're working on?
No, our
Zoning.
zoning bylaw, yeah, our zoning code, this would be included in that severability clause purview.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Paul.
I think that this is a very good idea that we spell this out.
Because, could you explain why?
We have to sell this to town meeting. And if town meeting knows that if people do not follow the rules and the law, which is going to be set out, that there has to be a way to enforce it. For example, if one of these locations, and right now there are no locations, but if one of these locations is in violation of the law, which involves the state and which, or maybe a criminal situation, it would be very upsetting to the neighborhood that the location is in. And to know that if people are found guilty of it, that the planning board could then, and I would make this a may, as opposed to a shall, but may revoke that part of the special permit as a sanction to those people who would run roughshod over the law. And I think it may be a selling point on town meeting floor.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Katie?
Yeah, so you can't really revoke a permit. You can fine, you can, there's all under the discretion of the zoning enforcement officer. If the court, you can get an injunction requiring compliance, but once you've granted rights under a permit, you can't revoke them. You don't have the legal authority to do that.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
You can try.
Katie, if the state comes in and finds out that half of a crop is no longer part of the geotag system, that is, it's being grown illegally, what would the state do? And then what rights would the town do under that situation?
Well, I mean, if they're growing illegally, that's a criminal offense. So that's a question for law enforcement. Whether that has some implications, or if they have a license and they're growing illegally, that becomes an issue for the state licensing enforcement people. If you determine that somebody is in violation of the terms of the special permit, you can require compliance with that, or you could seek an injunction from a court ordering them to, come into compliance or to shut down the business. But you can't yourself, as a planning board, have the authority to be the arbiter of whether or not there is a zoning violation. That is something that is given to the zoning enforcement officer and to the court to adjudicate.
Well, and to that point, we're supposed to be regulating land use, not licenses under state law. And our bylaw says if you lose your license, you lose your permit as well. So if an applicant loses his or her license or its license, then I think that the use ends. If you could comment on it, that would be great. But I think that it would be our zoning enforcement officer, and I think if we did put fines in here, that might be a productive thing, but it has to relate to land use, not whether they're violating state law and the Cannabis Control Commission's regulations. Am I correct?
You don't need to put anything in there in order for the zoning enforcement officer to enforce. Like, they have that authority already because it's a bylaw and because it's an issue pursuant to the bylaw. If you don't put something in specific, that doesn't mean they don't have that authority. There's general authority already given to the zoning enforcement officer to enforce.
In our bylaw, our general zoning bylaw right now, section 60.1 covers enforcement, which includes, as Jack said, non-criminal disposition process. So we already have that in our zoning bylaw right now, along with other fines and penalties.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jack?
we have been told that the Shellfish Industries model was used and applied to the cannabis model. I'm aware that individual towns have separate enforcement bodies, shellfish wardens that enforce the bylaws or the laws regarding shellfish. Now, being that this cannabis model was basically taken from the shellfish one, I'm wondering if we need to use that as a guide.
Have the shellfish and cannabis warden?
Have a separate, well, I mean, I'm reading here that it was a brilliant idea to use the Shellfish Industries model. Now, within that model, I know, for instance, different towns have separate agencies that go around and check to make sure that all of these shellfish regulations are being met. And then if there's a violation, the selectmen get involved and they have hearings. So, I mean,
I see what you're trying to construct in it. And I also see the resistance to that.
well, it was stated here that it was a brilliant idea, so I'm wondering if we should incorporate the brilliant idea of the shellfish model to our...
I see now, we may have to go take a shellfish history lesson, because I do believe the shellfish, the warden of the shellfish was already created prior to the farming of the shellfish.
Well, what
They already had that, so we actually don't have the cannabis officer yet. And I get it. I think Paul's point was good, because it made it sound as though here's insurance that we're going to get compliance. Wow. the remarks by Katie and Jess are, you already have the assurance of compliance because it's written in the bylaw. And the board is not convinced completely that that compliance is there. Of course, because you're gonna try to vote for this at a town meeting, and it can be argued whether or not we're gonna find that is sufficient as compliance.
Mr. Chairman, maybe we should start with the use table and then we can go
I
back
think
to
we
some of these
should look at the use
additional
table.
provisions if we need to get through it.
True. Okay. Have we beaten the sections to a pulp? So we know that the residential district is what it is? It just takes me always to the wrong place trying to go through these letters, but okay. We have the Seashore District, Route 6, North Truro Center, North Truro 6A, and what's BP?
Beach Point.
Oh, thanks. I can never remember that. I'll remember it someday. Good point. Thank you.
Sure thing.
So, for cultivating, in the residential district, we have a special permit with note number 1. Guess we can go through the note number 1 right now. Craft cooperative.
Mr. Chairman, can I interrupt you for a second? I believe that this footnote refers to the footnote on the next page. We have 2 footnote 1s and 1. That first footnote 1, sorry, it's kind of confusing, but that first one where it says craft cooperative is actually in relation to the marijuana craft cooperative, and in the last column, the total permitted licenses, which I can show you, sorry. It refers to this box.
Okay, so
we're gonna go
I was reading
to
that one down below. Correct?
this marijuana cultivation is the footnote that references the,
Special permit for residential district.
correct, for the marijuana cultivator.
Is that how you see it?
You know, because they're both
Marijuana
blue.
cultivation within the residential district shall be subject to a cultivation cap of blank square feet of canopy as defined in 935 CMR 500.02 per property and shall be limited to parcels of is that 1.5?
That is,
1.5 acres or more. That is the footnote that goes with marijuana cultivator in the residential district.
that's correct.
There's a blank in here. Is this the time to fill in the blank?
I think this is the time.
What is the board's decision on this?
Mr. Chairman, whatever the cultivation cap is will determine the size of either a building or an open area. So if you have a cultivation cap of 5,000 and the applicant wants to put up a 5,000 square foot building, I think whatever size we're going to allow, we need to think in terms of, if this is in a residential district, we are trying to craft a residential house size limitation that could possibly allow a 5,000 square foot house on an acre and a half with a special permit. So if we're thinking about this number, I think we need to think in terms of, if it's in a residential district, then we have to try to think in terms of where we're going in the scale and mass of buildings in a residential district. Whether they be for growing or whether they be for, single family residence.
Thank you, Jack.
And Mr. Chairman, I believe that the marijuana cooperative will be a way of saving the existing farms within the residential district. I'm not a big believer that a marijuana cultivator should be in the residential district. I would leave that to the Route 6 business district.
It doesn't say marijuana cultivator, it says marijuana cultivation.
That's the,
No.
but that's the use it's
Oh, I see.
linked to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So if someone were to come in here and be a commercial grower, if we turn around and say, well, we're going to allow you to commercially grow marijuana, be it in a large building or a series of greenhouses, but you have to be in the general business district, which includes those properties that are only partially within the general business district, because a special permit can allow that use in a partial situation. But if we turn around and limit it to a tier 6 or 50,000 square feet, we very well may limit the desirability of the town to have commercial growing operation.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we talked about this at a prior meeting, that we can't treat, because of uniformity, we can't treat a craft cultivator differently from a micro business or a craft co-op, because as Katie had pointed out, these are just license categories, but the use, which is what we're concerned about, land use, is cultivation. So again, Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said we couldn't prohibit marijuana cultivators in our district if we're going to let micro businesses and craft co-ops be in our district. Is that what you said?
Yes, that's correct. I think you have to look at exactly as you stated, and this is a land use classification, not a license classification. And it gets very confusing because we have all imported into this bylaw the license category classifications from the state licensing scheme. But ultimately, a marijuana cultivator and a craft cooperative cultivation location are using the land in almost identical ways. It's just a question of who owns it, what their organizational structure looks like, which is the reason that I just suggested that everyone should be treated equally, and then look at limitations for their lot size or canopy limits or coverage or other ways to sort of manage the amount of grow area that is permitted to take place in the residential district.
Katie, can we limit this to tier 6 evenly?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be fine if you wanted to choose a canopy limit, apply it evenly across the residential district to all cultivation categories.
6? Tier 6 is 5,000 square feet.
50,000.
For the map.
But I thought it was more than that.
Yeah, here, 50,000 is the regs. Up to 50,000.
That makes it somewhat undesirable for commercial growing.
How can you convince the people of Truro that's undesirable? I mean, it seems like an enormous amount, especially if we're looking at,
Well, if we're looking at a craft cooperative, we're looking at that being spread out over a number of different locations. If we're looking at a cultivator, a marijuana cultivator, that would be in one location.
I understand, and it's clear, just doesn't read too good. Tier 6, huh?
Which is why I think you want to also, in conjunction with this, look at what sort of parcel size and whether there's limitations on the amount per parcel, or a threshold for parcel size in which certain tiers can locate on. It's another way to sort of control this as related to the lot size, as opposed to just opening it up to 50,000 square foot feet on any lot size.
So if we said you could only cover 25% of the lot size, that would do it?
Well, I think we need to look at whether it would make sense to have a sliding scale. If you're 3 acres or below, you can cover 25%, but if you're, above 3 acres, you'd be at the lower percentage, because you have more area to put it on.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're changing the dialogue here from square footage of canopy to lot coverage. I mean, we're talking about apples and oranges as I see it. I'd rather stick to the square foot of canopy coverage and have that more closely related to the parcel size, whether they're half acres or 2 acres, whatever.
I understand what you'd rather have, but the problem is that they are so interrelated here, and the canopy does not necessarily mean what the coverage is on the lot.
Mr. Chairman, that's where we get into the discussion of whether it's a building or whether it's open cultivation, or if it's a combination of buildings and greenhouses. I would just as soon see greenhouses in use versus steel buildings.
So does tier 4 take you down to 25,000? No, 20,000.
30,000.
30?
30,000, yes. Tier 4?
Yeah.
How about 10,000?
And that's per parcel. We've got per property, but it should be per parcel, I would think, to be consistent.
Well, no, because can't there be several parcels right next to each other? So that would just multiply the amount that could be built there.
No, I think that
Should be an absolute limit.
I think where our problem is that we're not separating out the cooperative from the cultivator, and this has to include information for both. The cooperative would be growing on 7 different places. The cultivator would be growing all in one place.
To put some perspective on it, Mr. Chairman, if we say 1.5 acres, we're talking about 75,340 square feet. And if we're saying you can only cover a quarter of that, we're talking about 18,800 some odd square feet. That would be at one location. If the craft cooperative has 4 or 5 locations, and we limit everything to tier 6, which is 50,000 square feet, then each one could have 12,500 on the lot. So instead of on the 1.5 acres having 18,800, we would be essentially having 12,500 if they were evenly distributed between the lots. So we would really be covering, instead of 25% of the lot, we'd be covering about 17% of the lot.
Mr. Chairman, that may be true, but not all lots are created equal, and some are more upland and lowland, and we have to think in terms of that as well, I believe.
Well, and canopy can be grown vertically too, so you could have I don't know how much canopy you can get if you grow vertically in a 15,000 square foot lot coverage area.
Okay, I'm going to try to ask the board to help me understand how to make this sound right. This particular note applies to how many of our entries? Special permit in the residential district, for marijuana cultivator, for marijuana micro business? Is that the same superscript there?
Yes.
And marijuana craft cooperative? So whatever this note says, it will apply to all of those.
Well, micro businesses are limited by the license to 5,000 square feet of canopy, so they're limited already. We don't have to, if we had more generous
That
canopy,
should
it
not
doesn't
say
apply to
that.
them.
That footnote, it's hard to read, but that's actually deleted. That footnote 1 for micro business
Okay.
is actually, it's deleted, it's just kind of difficult to read. But the footnote for the craft cooperative is still standing at the moment.
Any other, number 1, that's it, right?
Yes.
So in the interest of the legalization of this language, we have to include the cooperative and the cultivator in the same language. And is this language restricting the cooperative to a total canopy on all of their individual properties?
Well, the co-op urged that, or proposed, that they would begin with a tier 2 production level of canopy per parcel, and then if they sought to increase that, that they would then undergo additional site plan review and not exceed the lot coverage and canopy limitations set forth elsewhere. So I think that should apply to marijuana cultivators as well, so that initial special permit will not exceed tier 2, but then you can certainly come back and apply for a larger operation.
Okay, but this note really does seem to set a limit.
Right, that, I mean, there's a lot of conflicting terms that got in here.
Yeah.
So we do have to make it clear what we mean and whether it is expandable. And we can't just put a note in that says you're limited and then conflict with that later. And Paul's suggestion of tier 6 seems a little large to me. I wonder if we should just say tier 4, and that would be as far as you could go.
I think you could use the same language. I'm calling it, for lack of a better term, now the craft co-op footnote. I think you could use that footnote for the marijuana cultivation and
What
say,
is this one now?
That's the first one.
it's the first one where it says, the initial special permit shall limit the amount of canopy per parcel to tier 2 production level under the reg, cited the reg. And every year thereafter, we could just say a craft marijuana cultivator cooperative or a marijuana cultivator may apply to increase the production level and but it must undergo additional site plan review. And then we could just put and in no event, I mean, parcels must be 1.5 acres or greater. I just think we got 2 footnotes from different edits, kind of getting us confused about this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You might have cleared it up. That would be great. Is there any other confusion? What is this number going
I don't know, there was a footnote 1 on the total number of licenses. Jess, on marijuana craft cooperative, there's a 1 and there's a footnote 1.
That is associated with the craft co-op, what we're calling that craft cooperative, that first footnote. But we never really looked at this, I mean, this footnote,
So this is our time to try to get this as correct as we can now. And Karen's suggestion, which I think is good, is to take the language that we've been working on and stop looking at that. Stop looking at that. That's very confusing. It might be better to look at the one for the craft cooperative and see whether this can work if we add the word marijuana cultivator into it.
yes.
And see how it reads then. So I'll try to read
So
it.
if you, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
If you start, Jess, on the sentence that says the initial special permit, starting with that sentence.
Yep.
If you begin that with the initial special permit for a marijuana craft cooperative or a marijuana cultivator shall limit the total canopy. Well, per parcel doesn't apply to marijuana cultivators, they can only be in one. But if you rework that sentence to include marijuana craft cultivators, or limited to tier 2 production level initially, then later at the end we can say, and the parcels, cultivation is limited to parcels of 1.5 acres or more.
I'm going to have to try to do that a couple of times. But I think that might work.
I think that solves it.
Were you eliminating the entire first part of this?
We're keeping that.
No, we're keeping.
So where it says craft cooperative, the total number of parcels allowed to be utilized per craft marijuana cultivator cooperative license for marijuana cultivation in the residential district shall be limited to 6. That's going to have to get a different footnote, right? And maybe separate that out.
A tier 2, it wouldn't be by parcel.
Maybe, or not. I mean, I don't think it's a refusal.
Parcel
And
would be covered
No,
under that
it's
tier
okay.
two, so like.
Why don't we make, why
Finding it's a white
don't we make it footnote
A tier
2?
two. Each parcel, no, each parcel would be under tier two.
I really want to eliminate
To tier two.
confusion
So like
in the
that.
footnotes. Because somehow the details are where everything works out.
Well, I just, as we're going through this, at some point, we're gonna have to get a clean copy and go through it again and vote on all the key terms. I mean, this has been redlined so many times I can hardly understand it. You know, it's been redlined after talking to you know, with the co-op or talking to Katie, or, so I think it's a confusing document to try to work with right now.
We all agree.
Do you
Let's
want?
try to make it less confusing. So we have a footnote that we would like to try to use for marijuana cultivator and marijuana craft cooperative. And that footnote should probably read the initial special permit. Would you agree with that, starting?
That would be like, I guess, footnote 1,
Yes.
start with that sentence, and then
The
footnote
initial
2.
special permit shall limit, if you can just insert a number 1 there, and you probably could pull the whole thing down so that, you see where it is, Jess?
Where are you, under the first footnote?
On the first footnote, Jess, where it says,
It's the 4th line down, more than halfway across. Right there, the initial, right.
Yep.
Okay, so we want to take that whole section and actually take that out as a footnote
Okay.
another footnote.
at the moment. This is not the end of the situation, because the other part is only concerning the correct
Right,
cooperative.
up above it, yes.
Yeah, and I want to, if this is going to talk about both the cultivator and the cooperative, then this is going to have to be a footnote
Two.
to itself.
Okay. I'm just gonna put a 2 here for now, and then we'll read more about it.
Okay, so now we're going to read that and see what needs to be added to make that make sense. The initial special permit shall limit the amount of total canopy per parcel to tier 2 production level under the regs. Every year thereafter, the craft marijuana cultivator cooperative or marijuana cultivator would have to be added in there.
There's like a legal thing in there that's off.
A what?
The tier, that the special permit for the craft cooperative would be, ask Katie, have Katie
The 2
explain.
should be a Roman numeral.
No, the tier 2 would be,
Here, why don't you should go up and ask Katie your question.
Hey,
Katie, we
Are you
have a
looking
question
at
from
this
the
with us?
audience.
where did it go? The initial, it's, the initial permit would be the canopy just the total, the amount of total canopy per parcel to tier 2, it would just be the total canopy to tier 2, because not each parcel would be a tier 2.
That's right.
It'd be a shared over all the parcels.
okay, thank you. That's a clarification on another little bit that might be confusing. So let's try reading it again. Did you catch that, Jess? The initial special permit shall limit the amount of total canopy to tier 2.
Okay.
Or to a tier 2 production level.
Yeah.
Would that be more correct?
Yeah.
Under the regulations.
Okay.
Every year thereafter, the craft, are you with us, Katie?
I'm with you.
Okay, thank you. Every year thereafter, the craft marijuana cultivator cooperative or marijuana cultivator may apply to increase production levels on, now here we go with a little problem. I'll read it, but on one or more parcels to higher tier production levels. Maybe we need not say the parcels at all. They may increase production levels to higher tier production levels. Pretty confusing?
Okay.
May increase production levels to higher tier production levels or lower. Wouldn't it be true?
Or would we make them go through site plan review to reduce their canopy?
I think we might.
We might.
Here's the reason why. If you're now going to unused buildings, are they going to be removed? At whose expense? Are they going to stay idle? Or, I mean, that's just a quick thought. But I could agree that we wouldn't require it, but I would need us to think about it before we just go, we don't need to become. Okay, so let's just assume everything's going up for the moment. It's not going down. All right? Every year thereafter, the craft marijuana cultivator, cooperative, or cultivator may apply to increase production levels to higher tier production as established under the regs, provided, however, each, now we have parcel again.
I'd say applicant.
Each applicant seeking to, each licensee, isn't it a license? Would it be licensee? Applicant.
Who would be, I guess, licensee?
We already have to.
Licensee.
What's the, I'm going to ask this question to anybody, the procedure to get the license. We can't put it in the wrong order, so that you can't get the license if you don't have this, and then you can't get this if you don't have the license. So what's the correct order? And that's probably to you, Katie, because I don't understand how the license is issued if it's not issued by the town, it's issued by the state.
Well, so if you want to increase your canopy, you're going to have to go to the CCC and you're going to have to demonstrate a couple of things, that you have been able to sell your canopy, whatever level you were at, you were able to sell at least a certain percentage of, I think it's 75 or 85%. And so if you could just demonstrate that to the CCC, they will allow you a higher cultivation canopy. I think once the CCC approves that, then they could come to the town and ask on the local level to increase that level, that canopy cap applied to their property. But I don't think they can increase it. They shouldn't be able to increase it on their property if the CCC hasn't approved a higher canopy level.
Okay.
The town would have the final approval.
Town would have the final approval, correct?
But the question I have here, and sort of as you're working through this, I'm sort of trying to think it through. Right now, well, here's your production level. So basically, when you're talking about listing this with the state production, tier level. So you can see how those go up for sort of percentage-wise. The question is, what if they want to? Now, I think that's okay. Sorry, I'm trying to work it through at the same time you are, see if there's any pitfalls in looking at the state production level. As long as we refer to the state tier production levels, I think it'll be okay.
Okay, the end of the language.
Katie, is this a good place to put in the overall limit of up to tier 6?
So do you want to have an ultimate cap on the tier levels? I mean, you're
Well,
gonna start
I think 100,000 square feet is too much. So if we cut it down into the middle, split the difference and leave it at 50,000 square feet, we're allowing, spread over a number of parcels of land, allowing the craft cooperative to make enough money off this farmland so that it stays farmland. And at the same time discourage a agribusiness from coming in and setting up shop, which might be detrimental to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a reasonable place to include that language. If you're going to have an alternate cap of a tier 6 production level for any marijuana cultivator or craft cooperative.
Can we vote on the size? Because tier 6 is way too big.
I believe that all of these things, when we have a final run-through, we'll need to vote on those things. And they'll all be subject to change on town meeting floor.
Okay, I'm trying. The problem is the last part of this goes back into parcels, and that wording may be incorrect here. So I'll ask Jessica, where are we actually on this wording?
On the
before we
second.
go?
So we stopped at every year thereafter the craft marijuana culture. We stopped provided, however, that each licensee is where we left off because we were talking about procedure. And then we didn't finish that section. So we're at, after licensee is where we stopped in that footnote.
Okay, so what,
I think you can just take out such parcel and just say each licensee seeking, because later in the bylaw, we refer, I think there's reference to parcels and individual site plan review for every parcel maybe, or we could come back and add an additional sentence.
Okay, yeah.
But that
maybe, okay,
Yeah.
so that was, it was a comma, and it says the craft marijuana cultivator cooperative or cultivator may apply to increase production levels. Is that the area we are?
Yes, yep.
On one or more, no, so we're going to eliminate that.
Yeah.
Production levels to higher tier production levels. It's a little,
Do you want to say to a maximum of a tier 6 production level?
yes.
To
I'm not exactly happy with that language, but I'll work with that for now. Each licensee seeking to increase production level must undergo additional site plan review. Would that be fine then?
That's okay. We have to hit.
And see, then the last sentence of this, and in no instance shall the craft marijuana cultivator, cooperative, or cultivator exceed canopy limitation of tier 6. And that would fix that last line.
Yeah, I don't
Throw it out.
If we're just putting in an arbitrary number, why don't we make it tier 4?
Well,
Tier 6 is an acre and a half of warehouses.
just hold on. I grasp what you're saying. I do, and I'm not trying to stop you from saying it. It's just,
I have to leave, Mr. Chairman.
we leave the use table. Is there any discussion regarding licenses? We've limited them to one. And again, you know, people, I mean, not that I'm advocating for the co-op, but I'm trying to work toward a collaborative bylaw. And I know that limiting them to one license is a difficult situation for them, because it really leaves them no options. If someone wants to leave the craft co-op and someone else already has the cultivator license and someone else already has the marijuana microbusiness license, then the person leaving the co-op has no options. And I don't know if we can make the license numbers different, Katie, or would they have to be all the same for any cultivator? We couldn't say, you know, we couldn't make it uneven. And I don't even know if the rest of the board wants to make it more than one, but I'm just throwing that out.
I understand.
Mr. Chairman, no matter what the number is, I think that putting the number as part of the use table is a wonderful idea. Because if, for example, we have 2 or 3 people who want to bake brownies, and we have right now a limit of 1, at town meeting we would just have to go in to change that number from 1 to 3. So this is a very clean way to deal with these, no matter what number we put in there.
I agree with that.
Okay, along with that, that would mean by doing that, we would be making it less restrictive by increasing the number. At town meeting, could we make the number smaller and make it more restrictive?
As long as you don't go to 0.
Okay, all right.
So Katie, do the number of licenses for cultivators all have to match? I mean, can there be 1 cultivator but 2 craft cooperatives, or 3, or 2 micro businesses? I mean, or do they have to be consistent? It has to be the same number of cultivation licenses in order to
Yeah,
be uniform.
that's a really good question. I mean, I think you could, if you're trying to promote the craft cultivation, but have a higher number of licenses there, as long as you're not precluding marijuana cultivators from operating there. So I think you could do that.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I'll just leave it to the rest of the board then to comment on the numbers.
In our dwindling numbers, we have 1 here, and that would mean 1 craft cooperative. Anybody care to change that number to 2?
I think that would be an appropriate thing to do at a future town meeting.
Not at this time. And Jack, leave it as it stands for now? Thank you, Jack. Okay, the rest of the use table. Beach Point, we have it not permitted throughout for all of these items, all marijuana. For North Truro 6A, we have special permit. For marijuana cultivator, we have special permit for marijuana product manufacturer. We have special permit for testing laboratory, special permit for marijuana research facility, not allowing marijuana retailer, and not allowing third-party marijuana transporter. Marijuana microbusiness special permit, and craft cooperative special permit.
Let's go back to this medical marijuana treatment center.
Okay.
There's a 1 and an N.
Point on yours so I see what you're talking about.
Right here. The third one down there.
Okay, you have a different.
Oh, no, I have a 1 and an N also
Yeah, I understand that.
on the seashore.
Oh, that's in the seashore. Why do we have that?
I understand what they had. I'll get to
I'm
that.
gonna guess it's.
That might have been a typo.
I think it's an N.
That should be an N. That's in the seashore though.
Anybody have any problem with special permit for cultivator in North Truro, 6A? No,
Mr.
no
Chairman?
comment means,
I think that once we have a clean copy of what the whole bylaw looks like, I think that would be an appropriate time to have another public hearing and hear from the people there.
you'll get an earful.
I'm sure
You'll
we
get it
will.
somewhere.
But it will be so easy to change an N to an SP and an SP to an N at that point that I think it would behoove us to not spend the time on it now.
But we already had 3 public hearings. I mean,
Right, but this bylaw was, as we're writing it right now, was never a subject of any of those public hearings.
Well, we can all argue that to death. But
Yeah.
this is the deal. This is what we've got. And
And Mr.
if you
Chief-
want to change things further, it's still a better time to discuss it now and to know what we're talking about than to just try to put it down the line a little bit.
And Mr. Chairman, I would like to add some things to, at the bottom of the use table. I would like to add a description N, semicolon, not allowed, and SP, semicolon, allowed by special permit. So anybody that reads this will know what the N and the SP mean.
good idea. I thought we had that at one point, but
That's what we
it's
did,
fallen
yeah.
out.
So it might have
It
disappeared.
must have disappeared.
Okay.
I apologize, this is the wrong time to ask, but are we required by law to have no limit on marijuana treatment centers or cultivation or dispensary? Are we required to not limit that by law, or is anybody interested in limiting that? I didn't know how that placeholder got in there.
Katie, that's a question for you.
Yes, it is. So you're not allowed to prohibit them. There's no specific provision in the medical marijuana law that sort of talks about municipalities imposing limits on them. I think you could impose a limit on them if you wanted to. I think it would receive Attorney General approval if you did that. So that's up to you. The way that these are traditionally limited is through the issuance of the letters of support or non-opposition, which is a role that the Board of Selectmen plays in determining whether or not to issue those letters.
Well, I was just thinking, because Paul brought up how this will look at town meeting, and that it might raise questions in people's minds about no limit on those licenses, and so it might be concerning to people to have no limit, maybe.
If we put a placeholder of 1 in there, I mean, it doesn't hurt.
I think we're going to need a note to explain what Katie just said, that these things are only going to occur through a letter of support through the Board of Selectmen, and that this is not all under the same,
Yeah, no, subject.
what?
What's that footnote?
I think we need to add that footnote that explains what Katie just said to us.
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily put that in your zoning bylaw. I mean, there are other communities that have, through zoning, imposed a limit on the number of medical marijuana treatment centers that they plan to issue licenses for. It's certainly not as common, and it's not specifically spelled out in the statute, but I think it's permissible. And I don't know that you need an explanation for it. I'm simply commenting that it's not a necessary limitation, because there is another way that you get control. If there's some concern that it's going to get inundated with medical marijuana treatment centers, if it's not in your bylaw, there's still a control through other venues of review. request.
Mr. Chairman, to say that we have one treatment center, retail, in town for a year-round population of less than 2,000, I think it's pretty adequate.
Okay. I'm gonna have to say that that's an opinion.
It is.
You can't be positive. Medical marijuana treatment center. Well, all right. We're gonna put a 1 in there for now, okay?
Okay.
We'll just use that as a placeholder.
For both.
Well, I would imagine if it was a medical marijuana treatment center, it might wind up also being a marijuana dispensary at the same time. Anything else on this? Let's see, we've gone through the North Truro 6A, and people have not really spoken up about special permit and whether things should change. As far as the medical marijuana treatment center, anybody care that were a special permit there?
Mr. Chairman?
I'm listening.
Should we be allowing the medical marijuana treatment center cultivation only by special permit in the residential district?
Well, you'd probably have to tell me what we're talking about for a medical marijuana treatment center.
The medical side of it is for growing marijuana that has a very low THC content and very high CBD content. And CBD is the part of the plant, the enzyme within the plant, the chemical properties within the plant that generally stop tremors, stop reactions to things that are controlled by the plant, and very little other sources of control. So people that would be growing for a medical marijuana treatment center, cultivation only, they would be selling only to the medical marijuana treatment center dispensaries.
I'm sure that this is clear to some people and not clear to others. If so, I need this to be clear to me. Medical marijuana treatment center, cultivation only. Does that mean I'm going to be using medical marijuana on the site?
No.
So it's not treatment, it's a dispensary.
Maybe I could clarify this.
Please.
On the state level, when you get a license for a medical marijuana treatment center, there's just one umbrella term for this, it's a single vertically integrated license. And that license allows you to grow, process, manufacture, and sell your own product. There's not like an open retail market or wholesale market for medical marijuana. You have to sell what you cultivate under your own license. Now, because the adult use marijuana split out all of those categories and make them all separate standalone categories on the recreational side, when it comes to local zoning, it hasn't made as much sense to keep the medical marijuana treatment centers, dispensaries, retail zoned in the same area as your cultivation, because you're really talking about two different land uses. So even though we called it a medical marijuana treatment center, we split out the cultivation only part of that business and put that separate from the dispensary retail. So even though they both sort of look like they're medical marijuana treatment centers, one is really the cultivation, processing, manufacturing side, and the other is the dispensary retail side.
Perfectly clear. I understand.
That type of cultivation would be purely in warehouses. Just
Because of
Because
the
of the-
medical
yeah.
purity thing of it.
The medical marijuana cultivation is going to work almost, it's going to be almost identical to your adult use recreational cultivation. They're going to grow perhaps different strains, and they're going to process and make products that are different than you might sell recreationally. But the product itself, the growing of it and the testing of it is going to be pretty much identical to how it operates on the recreational side.
Well, so do we need to allow it in our district to be uniform, since it is cultivation? I think that's what Paul was getting at.
I think you may have an instance where, for example, a member of a craft cooperative or a marijuana cultivator goes and gets a medical marijuana treatment center license for purposes of doing cultivation, and they would have some strains of medical and some strains of
Recreational.
So you might have a co-located grow facility. That's how it's rolling out on the state level right now, is that everybody's getting their adult use cultivation licenses are existing cultivation facilities for medical, and then they're just planting the recreational and growing in the same facility.
Okay. So that does sound like a special permit would be more sense.
I think you could allow it in the same areas that you're allowing other marijuana cultivation, and it would operate as a different type of land use impact than those other cultivation operations.
And Katie, are the medical marijuana treatment center dispensary / retail allowed to co-locate with the marijuana retailers?
Yes, they are. I mean, it's separate licenses, and the CCC actually just released draft regulations governing the co-location establishments. So, I mean, they have to handle their product and their sales, and there's specific regulations for how you set that up. But yes, it's certainly contemplated that you're going to have co-located retail for medical and adult use.
So you want to make both of them special permit?
Well, we have the medical marijuana treatment center as a special permit in Truro Center, North Truro Center, and along Route 6, which is exactly where we have the marijuana retailer. So, and since they can co-locate in the same building, I think we're covered.
Okay, so what about the medical marijuana cultivation only?
I think we should leave that as a special permit within the residential district.
That means change the end.
Correct.
Thank you.
Do
Anyone
you
else?
also want to put it in NT6A?
Probably, because
What do you think, Mike? Is your business in NT6A? What do you think about it? Putting it in, allowing it in anything in TA? North Truro 6A.
Don't matter.
Okay.
Okay, you're going to change that and on the NT6A to an SP also. Then that's where we stand now. Truro Center. It's a no for marijuana cultivator. It's a no for medical marijuana treatment center. It's a special permit for medical marijuana dispensary. It's a no for marijuana product manufacturer. No for testing lab. No for research. No for transporter. Special permit for marijuana retailer. Special permit for marijuana microbusiness. and a no for marijuana craft cooperative. Everybody clear on those?
Well, I have, I'm somewhat miffed by the marijuana micro business being in Truro Center.
I don't even know how that happened. I mean, I would support it.
Yeah, I think that should be a no.
Okay, so we're going to change the macro business to a
Yep.
no. Is there a reason why it's there?
I don't know, it looks like it was in there in one of our last public hearings, but I'll just delete it. Could have been, there's just been a typo.
Now, the Truro Center,
Oh wait, sorry, I had that in the wrong category, sorry.
Marijuana micro business.
This one.
can I go back to marijuana retail in Truro Center? Will we have a special permit?
Okay, marijuana retailer, which is next box up on my sheet, right? Is that what you're talking about,
Yeah.
Bruce?
Yeah, I'm telling, that should be,
Do you not want a retailer in town center?
that's right, what I'm saying.
Anyone else want to voice an opinion on that?
Well, I don't have a problem with that. And I'll tell you why. There are one or two locations that are standalone buildings that already have parking and already have been used for retail businesses that it would make sense for them to be there. Not being prejudiced. I mean, we have right on Route 6 there, a liquor store. There
Not
are,
in town center.
Is that?
well, it's right on the highway.
Well, that would be the Route 6 area, right?
No. No, part of the Hammond Valley Liquor Store actually comes down to within the Truro Center. The back part of the property that goes
Yeah,
down
the
toward the
road,
marsh,
yeah.
that goes down into the Truro Center general business area. Truro Center general business area is very small, but there are two possible buildings. One is owned by it was given to the Art Center on one side of the street, and on the other side was the old Wilder School, Okie Souza's house. Both of those could be locations which already have parking, they already have access, they're standalone buildings, they could be secure, they have their, you know,
It's
would not
making a
have.
point to have retail in the town center. Do you understand that it might be possible? It doesn't have to happen.
Well, somebody'd have to go in and buy those buildings. We're talking about between $800,000 and $900,000 just as an ante-up. But we'd still be allowing it and it would possibly be safe. And because it's a retail place, it's one of the few places that we would be able to, as a town, get some income from the traffic. And if we had no places for sale, then all the income going to Wellfleet, which has 3, and Provincetown, which will probably have 3 too.
That's a discussion that we've had now. Let's just decide. Do you want to leave that as a special permit in the town center, Mike?
Yes.
Jack? Yes. Bruce, you can say you want to rather it was no. You can say,
Well,
I don't feel.
nothing's in stone yet.
Yeah.
Just getting a consensus, but I agree with Paul and everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, if we make it all restricted, it's all right, it stays for now. I'm going to go down to the next column, unless there's anything else on this column anybody wants to talk about. I'll take that as no, North Truro Center. We have no for cultivated, we have no for a treatment center, we have special permit for dispensary retail treatment center. We have no for product manufacturer. We have no for testing lab. We have no for research. We have no for transporter. We have special permit for retailer. We have special permit for micro business, and no for craft cooperative in North Truro Center. I'm okay with these for the time being. Paul, you have a comment?
I think that's fine.
Mike, it's all right this way for now?
Yes.
Good. Jack, Orbs, okay. No, speak up. I'll just. Route 6, we have a special permit for cultivator.
Everything.
We have a special permit for everything. Satisfactory, leave it special permit for everything. In the Seashore District,
Can't have it.
we have no. Until the federal government changes its opinion, we'll stick with no. Wow. Any other footnotes that we need to add to the use table?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to have a small discussion in the residential district for the marijuana product manufacturer, the independent testing laboratory, the marijuana research laboratory, and the third-party marijuana transporter.
Well, that sounds really big already. Yeah, let's start with one of those things. You want to talk about residential district
Yes,
only?
only.
And now you want to talk about the product manufacturer?
Yes.
Well, can I just interject here, because maybe Katie can help us kind of short circuit this, because it seems to me if you start allowing product manufacturing, a commercial testing lab, research, and a transporter, in the interest of uniformity, you'd have to allow like a taxi cab company, because if you're going to allow a transporter in the residential district, wouldn't you have to allow other uses that are transporters? Wouldn't you have to allow other manufacturers? You couldn't just favor marijuana manufacturers and put them in the R district. So to me, I don't think they should be in the R district as just a matter of policy, but as a matter of zoning law, land use law. Can we just give favored status to like a marijuana transporter, but not a cab company that's transporting, or some kind of other commercial transporter? Katie?
Yeah, and I think we're getting into these gray areas now of how can you distinguish the impact of a marijuana transporter from the impact of a taxi cab company? I mean, are those different in user impact? Like, what is the frequency of their delivery or travel? So certainly if there's different use classifications that have potentially different impacts, then uniformity would not apply in those cases. So I think we can make a case for the fact that, these really are marijuana-specific uses, and that it wouldn't necessarily open up the residential district to other similar uses, as long as we can make a case that it's a different type of use or different type of impact. I will say with the product manufacturer, I know that we had a conversation about this, the fact that product manufacturing is included within the definition of a craft marijuana cultivator cooperative. What we're talking about here, though, is a product manufacturer that would be a standalone license category. So perhaps to the extent that we're talking about footnotes, maybe one clarification to make would be that any product manufacturing would have to be an accessory to an existing license. It couldn't be a standalone product manufacturing license. Because I think that might cover that discrepancy with respect to what a craft marijuana cultivator can do under its license from the state, and the fact that we defined it to be a similar definition as the state definition.
Okay, so that sounds like a footnote.
I also think it would be alarming to people of the town to include these uses in the residential district, because, there already is a contingent of people who doesn't think marijuana cultivation is agriculture and are opposed to just cultivation, which is to me the more benign use. So that's why I'm not in favor of allowing these other uses in our district, and I'll just be quiet and let the rest of the board weigh in on me.
I'll let Bruce get in right now. What do you think, Bruce? There's the 4 items that Paul brought up, which are in conjunction with the cultivators in some respects, but as we
I
stated,
take Karen's thoughts on that.
we'll just leave it as a no for those 4 areas.
Mr. Chairman, may I just expound a little bit more?
I think you could, and you probably will.
Thank you. The marijuana product manufacturer, the independent testing laboratory, the marijuana research facility, and the third-party marijuana transport can, by statute, have no interaction with the public. No signs, no interaction. So you would not know that it was there. We can, through a special permit, say specifically, if you want to be a marijuana transporter, you can't have any more than 2 vehicles, maybe 3 vehicles, period. Everything that you would be doing would take place elsewhere and be completely monitored by the state. A research facility would be the same situation, the independent testing laboratory. No one can sell any of the marijuana products until they're tested. So it's almost in conjunction. And this is something that you could set up in a garage or a basement, no signs outside. And it would be a chance for someone, would be an ancillary business to the existing co-op program. And the product manufacturer, if you had, for example, a commercial kitchen, which it exists in a number of places in town, and you wanted to bake brownies, that would be a way for someone who lives here with grandma's recipe to make a little bit more money. Since there's no interaction with the public, and since we've already limited on, if you look at the total number of licenses to 1, we can back into this particular thing. If we find out that there's a problem, then it just goes away at some point. If we find out that it's not a problem, then we can increase the licenses to 2 or to 3 to see how it works. But since there is no interaction with the public, since they won't be raising a building, since they can do it in their basement or their garage, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't allow people that want to try this to try it.
Anyone have an opinion to voice on it? I'm going to just express my opinion, which is that if we leave it as a no, this bylaw can be revisited, because I think it will be revisited. If it passes or if it fails, it's going to be revisited. And because we will know something more once this bylaw passes. I prefer the people who live in residential districts to feel that their space is protected and that we have their back. And we're not saying, because you can't tell it's a marijuana truck, it's okay. And I sympathize with the thought, but I argue that the appearance is you're giving it away, and that's the end of Truro. I would rather say, I'm going to err on the side of caution, and these things could be revisited, or even be revisited at town meeting to make them less restricted. I know, I understand, it's just the way it looks, it's like you take on the residential district right now. And this is what we have for people.
I think it's really going to alarm people, and there's no assurance that somebody wouldn't put up a big steel building on their property and do this. So it's not clear to me it's going to be in a basement or a garage. And there's all kinds of security requirements for all of these uses, but I just think the overarching reason is it will alarm people. We have been pursuing this because the cultivation does resemble agriculture, because we want to help the farmers, and then to branch out into all these commercial enterprises, I think is a real mistake for the most obvious reason that I think a lot of people would be really alarmed about it.
I'm in agreement that I ask the rest of the board to speak about how they feel. Mike?
I agree with Karen.
Jack?
Mr. Chairman, I'm very grateful to your comments, Karen's, and Paul's. And I've thought about it, and I really agree with Karen and Bruce too.
Thank you, Jack. Bruce?
I appreciate Paul's explanation of the flexibility.
I bow to my fellow board members.
It's not bowing here. It's just bending. Hey,
We're keeping it as N, sounds like.
leaving them as in.
Yep.
That completes the, so the two additions that Paul brought up before about explanation for an N and an explanation for an SP, very important to me. Also, the explanation for the districts should always go in somewhere.
Yep, that's.
It should, you know, it should always try to, yeah, that, exactly. Thank you. And we're going to look at the beginning of the bylaw. And it's only been 2 hours and 15 minutes, so let's get started.
Well, how are we set for timing in terms of if there were going to be a November meeting? When do we have to have this to rate? Do you know? I'm only asking because I think we really need to somehow get a clean copy to work from.
What's a clean copy?
You know, without all these red lines. You know, except the ones that we kind of have a consensus.
Well, the red lines will
on.
disappear after we go through it one more time.
Okay.
That's true. I can start to remove the red lines as we go.
Yeah, I'm
Well, no,
sorry.
I'm the only one who doesn't, I mean, I just have a hard time with all these red lines.
I have a hard time reading it too, but I think that we should start and see how far we get. And that way we'll have a copy with less red lines.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
if you take them all out, we'll be confused anyway. Don't you think?
Well, so as to the definitions, I mean, Katie drafted those.
Yeah,
Yes,
we went
we will.
through the,
Controversy about the
yeah.
definitions.
So let's start
Well,
with
we were going to perhaps add a definition of
We did-
parcel.
parcel. We were gonna take out from that footnote we talked about. So if you want me to, I can do that from footnote 1.
It's okay. The definitions to me are really important too. They are.
I've read them so many times.
I know.
So we
I'm gonna just
had,
read it into that. Can't help it. Purpose of the marijuana bylaw is to provide for the placement of adult use recreational marijuana. There's no red lines in this whatsoever. So I'm going to believe that it's pretty good. RME, and Medical Marijuana Treatment Center, MMTC, in accordance with an act to ensure safe access to marijuana, Chapter 55. No regulations which have or may be issued by, just read along with me, because if there's something that's a typo, now's a good time to find it. Cannabis Control Commission, including but not limited to one park. In locations suitable for such uses which will minimize adverse impacts on residential.
I have a question about the very last removal of such uses. Are we really addressing in this bylaw the removal of the uses?
I thought we had one little thing talked about in it.
Katie, are we?
Where are we?
Are we?
I don't know that we have anything in there about decommissioning them, so you could strike that, and it does need to be in the purpose section if it's in there.
Mr.
If
Chair,
it's not in your purpose and it's in there, that's fine, but it's not in the language that is in the purpose, that does need a little bit of
Paul wants to say something about this, because I know you,
Mr. Chairman, the very first sentence under purpose says the purpose of the marijuana bylaw is to provide for the placement No, it's not. If you look at our particular agenda, it says, purpose of regulating. I think we should take placement out and put regulating in.
It could say regulating land use, right? Or establishing
regulations.
zoning regulations, or whatever.
I mean, the purpose section, I don't think we need to overly craft that one. I mean, we did sort of a general summary of why you're adopting this.
Right, but
It's not gonna matter, it's just, you know, if
Okay.
someone ever challenges it, you point to this and say, well, this is why we did it.
I would ask for the board's opinion of, can we replace the word placement with some other word?
You don't like the word placement?
Nope.
Why not? Isn't that what we're actually doing?
No, we're actually regulating. We're not placing any.
I don't have a problem with you making that placement in terms of potential misunderstanding or anything like that.
You ready to change the purpose, which didn't have any problems before?
Ready,
Just keep a sense of humor and
that's right.
keep
All right.
on trucking. Here we go. This is going to be for the regulation, right?
Correct.
Katie,
Yeah.
do you have any problem with us using the word regulation there?
That's absolutely fine with me.
Thank you. So we've got more than-
And I hate to slow us down anymore, but I will say, since we've drafted this, the CCC has adopted new regulations, or at least in a draft form, regulations relating to medical marijuana, so we do need to change that 105 CMR 725 to 935 CMR 501. So you're going to just might want to put them in the numerical order. So it should be not limited to 935 CMR 500 and 935 CMR 501.00.
500.
Is it 501.00?
Yes, 501.00 is the new medical marijuana regulations.
It's on the other side of the decimal point. It's
Oh.
501.
Well, you leave the 500 in too also, I think, and you just say.
500 stays in, that's adult use marijuana. 501 is now medical marijuana.
See?
Should have read it.
Next
I told
week,
you not to read it.
next week it's going to be
And Karen, in the last sentence right there, it just doesn't seem clear enough.
Removal.
And removal of such uses.
We're not going to address removal. So I just think we would take that out.
Yeah.
okay.
Just, Paul and I were just saying, probably just strike any removal of such uses, because we're not making any law here about removing a use. Maybe some places do, and I know the CCC actually requires, don't they, Katie, with retailers to have a bond that they can decommission their business, but we're not really providing for that.
There is a provision in the CCC regulations for the description of products in the event somebody comes to town, you have to, the CCC can handle that removal. So if you were going to handle any other decommissioning, it wouldn't be with respect to product, it would be with respect to what's left behind. And my general advice is, you're never going to go in and decommission any anything unless you have a court order to do so, because it's private property, and it's all under liability, and I'm not sure you necessarily want to be in the business of going in and taking apart people's businesses. The biggest concern is the product, and I think the CCC has covered that.
Right, so we don't need those and removal words.
Yes.
Okay.
So it would read, by regulating the siting, design, placement, and security of such uses? Adding "and" between placement and security?
So I'm gonna start accepting these changes as we go. Should we move on to definitions?
Yes, we're going to try to do the definitions now.
Okay.
Any term not specifically defined herein shall have a meaning as defined in MGL, Chapter 941, Section 1, and 105 CMR 725, implementing an act for the humanitarian medical use of marijuana and MGL.
Now that we would change that, Mr. Chairman, the 105 CMR 725 to 935 CMR 501.
Yes, and then I think you could just take out that implementing an act for the humanitarian medical use of marijuana language, just strike that, because that act is going to be repealed.
Jess, are you okay with what was just said?
I think so, yep.
I'll give you a couple of minutes.
And, yeah, 9:35.
You know, if we don't finish this tonight, it's probably going to have to start at the beginning again, because they might change it again.
Sure we would.
All right, so that's,
Embarrassments.
I think that's good.
Okay?
Yep, Paul, is that how? you want to-
Any term not specifically defined herein shall have the meaning as defined in MGL Chapter 941, Section 1, and 105 CMR 725. 935 CMR.
That's 105 CMR 725 comes out.
Okay, that comes out too.
Any term not specifically defined here shall have the meaning as defined in MGL Chapter 94I, Section 1, and 935 CMR 501.00.
Okay, got it.
And, not a run-on sentence. And MGL Chapter 994G. Is that right? Section 1. And, there are a lot of ands.
There is a lot of errors.
And the Cannabis Control Commission Regulation 935 CMR 500.00. Is that
That just means like the entire resolution.
It's Latin for, and, you know, sequentially, does 105 CMR 725 need to come out of the purpose paragraph as well?
It is, isn't it?
That That's what I had suggested. Did it not come out?
Did it,
It needs
It's-
to come out. You replace 105 CMR 725 with the 935 CMR 501.
oh,
I see.
It just basically relabeled the section to put it under the CCC as opposed to under DPH. The DPH's CMR number is 105 and the CCC CMR number is 935.
Got it, okay. Great. Okay,
Do we need playgrounds in there, Karen?
we're still back on purpose again.
Yeah, since we don't mention it in here.
You know,
Just
we
leave other sensitive locations.
We edited down our buffer zone, so we're not really addressing schools and
No,
playgrounds.
schools,
Or
yes.
schools
Just
are
schools.
playgrounds, and
Playgrounds, no.
maybe playgrounds needs to come out? I don't know.
I would think so. You would say on adjacent properties, residential neighborhoods, schools, and other sensitive locations by regulating the siting, design, placement, and security of such uses.
okay.
See what you're starting. It's true though.
Good. All right, let's go back to,
Are we on definitions?
yep. Governing adult use marijuana as such statutes and regulations may from time to time be amended. And now we have,
So then we have cannabis or marijuana means all parts of any plant of the genus cannabis not accepted in 935 CMR 500 0.002.
The whole thing's good.
good?
Katie drafted it.
Yeah.
It's right out of the regs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Keep that.
Accept,
Number 2, canopy.
oh, that just accepted,
We could accept that too.
that accepted all her additions of those.
Commission
couple.
shall mean Massachusetts Cannabis Commission. Craft, marijuana cooperative. Okay. You type them?
Yes, sir.
Okay, one second, go back to
Where's
it.
that?
Yes, shall need, yes, you took it out. Thank you.
Jessica,
Yeah,
in number 2, there is a space on the second line. It says all areas, and then in question, another S at the end of area.
oh, thanks, yep. Great. Okay,
Okay,
yes, okay. I think I can remove that note. That was just something I had in number 5.
we're on number 5?
We're on number 5, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Marijuana cultivation shall mean an entity license. Hold on a second, go back to number 2.
First, line down, spaces.
Oh, we just took care of that, didn't we? Oh, areas and spaces?
No.
Yeah, but space is
Okay.
Was it?
right.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a if or, if then, either or. Cultivator shall mean an entity licensed to cultivate, process, and package marijuana and to transfer marijuana to other marijuana establishments, but not to consumers. A craft marijuana cooperative is a type of marijuana cultivator. Revisit at use table.
Yeah, I just removed that. That was the note I had.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 6, no problem with that?
That's good.
6, marijuana product manufacturer shall mean, all of this is crossed out, an entity licensed to obtain, manufacture, process, and package cannabis or marijuana products, and to transfer these products to other marijuana establishments, but not to consumers. Is that correct? Transfer? Okay, I mean, yes.
Can I
Yes.
ask a quick question on number 5? Did you leave in the language that a craft marijuana cooperative is a type of marijuana cultivator?
Yes.
Yep.
I think that for purposes of how we set up the use table, I think we want to remove that statement. That's from the state regulations, and that has to do with what regulations apply to a craft marijuana cultivator. But for purposes of the zoning, since we've created different use categories and limited the licenses to one of each type, I think we don't want to have that come under the umbrella of the marijuana cultivator for purposes of the bylaw definition.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Clarification.
Thank you, Katie.
Jessica, you're very good at this.
No, thanks. Knock on wood.
And we are now
Don't
on
mess anything up.
number
Number 7.
7. Marijuana retailer shall mean an entity licensed to purchase and transport cannabis or marijuana product from marijuana establishments. Why do we have transport in there? I just don't understand.
Because they can go and pick it up one place and bring it to their store.
That's not true, is it?
That, I believe, is
A
part.
transporter is a marijuana transporter. I thought that, I just want to be clear, that's all.
I think manufacturers, as part of their license, can move it, just like craft cultivators.
That's part of the
can
state
move it.
definition.
Okay, I just want to be sure, because
Yeah.
if you're going to license, if you're going to license out a transporter and then say, well, you don't need the license.
So if Karen correct on that, it's part of the license. What your other category is a third-party transporter, someone who doesn't have the ability to transport by nature of the fact that they hold other license classifications, who wants to continue in the business of providing those types of transportation services to other establishments.
Thank you for the clarification, I appreciate it. That's very clear. And transport cannabis or marijuana product from marijuana establishments and to sell to otherwise transfer this product to marijuana establishments and to consumers. Retailers are prohibited from delivering cannabis or marijuana products to consumers and from offering cannabis or marijuana products for the purpose of on-site social consumption on the premises of a marijuana establishment. Satisfactory. Next, micro-business means a co-located marijuana establishment that can be either a Tier 1 marijuana cultivator or product manufacturer or both, in compliance with the operating procedures for each license. A microbusiness that is a marijuana product manufacturer may produce no more than 2,000 pounds of marijuana per day a year from other marijuana establishments. I was just checking to see if anybody's listening.
Great question.
The next item.
Is it co-located, I see the spell check's underlined it, is that a dash?
In the state regulation, it's not a dash. It's just looks like just like that. I don't know if that's typo in the state reg, but
It can be spelled that way, that's
it
how
can.
it should be spelled. I looked it up too, because it looks odd.
We are up to 9.
9.
Recreational marijuana establishments. Or does parcel go in here? If this is alphabetical.
Yeah, we need to fix the medical marijuana should actually go above.
Okay, so that's something that has to be taken care of. I'm not going to worry about that yet.
Yeah.
Alphabetizing. I have my own problems with that. I'll just read number 9. Recreational marijuana establishment, RME, shall mean a marijuana cultivator, craft marijuana cooperative, marijuana microbusiness, marijuana product manufacturer, marijuana retailer, independent testing laboratory, marijuana research facility, marijuana transporter, or any other type of licensed marijuana-related business. As such, uses are defined in MGL Chapter 94G, Section 1, or the Cannabis Control Commission Regulations 935 CMR 500.00, but shall not include a medical marijuana treatment center. Done? Next.
Done.
Number 10, medical marijuana treatment center, dispensary / retail, MMTCDR. Shall mean an entity registered by the Department of Public Health or the Cannabis Control Commission that acquires, transfers, transports, sells, distributes, dispenses, or administers medical use marijuana products containing medical use marijuana, related supplies, or educational materials to registered qualifying patients or their personal caregivers. Good?
Good.
Any problems?
No.
Number 11, medical marijuana treatment center, cultivation / processing, MMTCCP. Shall mean an entity registered by the Department of Public Health or the Cannabis Control Commission that cultivates, possesses, transfers, transports. It's not processes, it's possesses.
It possesses and then processes
Okay.
later.
Transfers, transports, and/or processes medical use marijuana or products containing medical use marijuana and related supplies, qualifying medical marijuana treatment center, dispensary / retail. All right. We did want to add the definition for parcel. Did we have any agreement on what parcel is going to be?
Well, it was in the, that one footnote, wasn't it?
Yep, I just moved it down. I just put it in
There
right
you go.
here. And I just copied and pasted from that footnote, so if we want to change anything, now's the time.
Okay. Which gets us to
Looking good.
the use table, which we have finished.
And sorry, can we put a definition of parcel in?
The definitions, yes.
Okay, just checking.
It states, parcel may consist of multiple lots as long as such lots are contiguous or adjacent and are under common ownership. Each parcel shall be subject to site plan review.
I think we need a little more there. Do you agree, Katie? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to say a parcel is whatever and may consist of multiple lots. So a parcel is, what is a parcel? It's
A location?
Do you want to
a
say?
lot? I mean, what is a
A
parcel?
piece of land.
A piece of land, perfect.
Should we have a dictionary definition?
Identified by a map and
You
parcel.
have a
number.
parcel definition already?
No, I was gonna say, should we get the dictionary definition of it? I don't know if we have it defined.
Well, it could say a piece of land identified by map and parcel number by the Truro tax assessor. Who
You
assigns
can't
that?
use parcel in the definition for parcel.
That's true.
I mean, I think what we're trying to do here is come up with a somewhat unique definition of parcel, because I think what we're trying to get at is the concept of location through the definition of parcel, because we want to lump together any collection of land in common ownership on which marijuana, whether an RME or an MPC, is proposing to locate.
Yes.
So I guess, should it say a parcel shall mean a location? and may consist of multiple lots. Parcels don't mean a single location where,
It should be, a single, let's see, should be the location on which a license or which an RME or MMTC proposes to locate. And we want to make sure we capture, the craft marijuana cooperative in that. So, on which an RME or MMTC proposes
To locate,
And maybe,
and may
and may
say,
consist.
and may consist, right.
And may consist of multiple lots.
oh, you took out the and. But you need to-
And while you're there, Jessica, that's number 12 instead of number 11.
I know, the numbering's kind of funky, I didn't want to mess with it right now,
Okay.
but I will change it.
Yeah, if you touch it, everything. goes-
Yeah, it got all weird when I tried to change it.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
So I will make sure to renumber
Okay,
as well.
I'm satisfied that that is usable for now. Do we have any more definitions?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. So we do have the use table done, that done. Okay. Let's see how much further we can go. I have D. What do you have now?
I don't think this table is C.
C is the use table, we went through it.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Have D,
D.
limitations.
There we go.
Okay. Great. All RME and MMTC shall be required to obtain site plan approval followed by a special permit. The special permit granting authority and site plan review authority shall be the planning board. Special permit applications shall comply with the requirements of section 30.8 of the bylaw, and site plan review shall be conducted in accordance with section 70, is that there?
That, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just use the section symbol instead of section.
Mr. Chairman, to be consistent, shouldn't we put the site plan review section first, followed by the special permit application?
Consistency is important, I agree that, so the site plan approval followed by special permit, and here we want to say, special permits shall comply.
Yeah, okay.
So you want to put the site plan review
I would
shall
put
be
the site plan
conducted
review in the
accordance-
second sentence. I would put site plan review authority and special permit granting authority shall be the planning board. And then the next sentence, site plan review shall be conducted and special permit application shall comply.
You know what happens when I would get the type like this on my page, I would make it a total mess, and then I would have to go back to the original.
I'm not really good.
Once I would get it like that,
So it's gonna
it
say,
never
I
worked.
want to get some self-confidence.
Yeah.
This time, you do it a kind
okay.
Writing a new book is brain surgery self-taught. Probably be the second edition.
Alright. So it should look like. And then is this
Oh.
third sentence okay?
So that says, all RMEs and MMTCs shall conform to applicable state regulations as well as any additional requirements stated herein. A craft marijuana cooperative shall obtain a single special permit and location-specific site plan review. Is that stated correctly?
In the second sentence, Jessica,
Yep.
site plan review authority and the special permit granting authority. Swap them. Shall be the planning board.
Oh, I see.
We just discussed it after this.
All right.
And after the granting authority, stuck another hand in.
Oh, thanks.
How's that read?
Looks good to me. Doesn't mean it's good.
Now, the only other question is the word location. Should it become parcel specific? Last line. We use the definition for parcel. I'm not sure. That's the last sentence, Paul. The craft marijuana cooperative shall obtain a single special permit and parcel-specific site plan review or location-specific site plan review. Does it matter to you?
No. Either one would be okay.
I think we should go with parcel since we've defined it.
Yeah.
And then just check and make sure that our definition would capture each individual parcel.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on. Proposals of marijuana cultivation in the residential district shall comply with the design criteria of section 70.4D. Planning board has the authority to waive design criteria.
Specific design criteria.
Say that again?
Yeah.
Specific. So we're not waiving the whole design criteria, we're waiving specific things.
Has the authority to waive specific design criteria?
Yes.
Do we want to include, I think I highlighted this as if we wanted to add to the end of that sentence, planning board has the authority to waive specific design criteria.
Such as?
Do we want to incorporate part of the definition from our site plan
Which is
review section,
40,
which said,
70.4D?
yeah, well, the waiver section would say, waive certain requirements of 70.4, provided that in the opinion of the planning board, such a waiver would not be detrimental to the public interest, cause the town any expense or be inconsistent with the intent and purpose of this bylaw.
That sounds wonderful to me, and I have no problem putting it in, but there is a problem when it comes to what we're saying, what we were going to do. We don't define that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's not necessary for it to be there because we would have to go to that section in order to waive anything.
Well, and you know, we talked about moving some things around because under H, you know, we discussed site plan review in there and what's to be considered on a case-by-case basis. And maybe that needs to go there.
In other words, we need to bring this section, that was the additional stuff, right?
Right. And you had said I need to come back into this, the earlier section of the bylaw.
And wouldn't it be proposals for marijuana cultivation? Instead of of? But,
Want to say that again?
proposals for would be, proposals for, not proposals of,
That's
or
correct.
applications for.
yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't it be an application? Is that what we're talking about, or?
Yes, yeah, that's what we're talking, yeah, an application for,
Yeah, let's make that change of language and consider bringing those requirements that were specified in additional provisions, which would be number 1. Maybe a few more, maybe 2. Some of those are, what's the limits? We'll have to see about the placement, because this is limits, it's not all over.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I think it's a compromise to say what Paul said. Planning board has authority to waive specific design criteria, and then wait till you get to it and see how it all.
Yeah,
okay.
fine.
Because this is limits, so.
Yeah, 2 is scrapped, 3 is scrapped. Now direction, 2 that we're keeping here is a special permit. Are you there? We're going to change that from proposals to applications. But I don't think these aren't proposals, are they? They're applications.
Applications for marijuana cultivation?
Yeah. Is that what we're going to call what people apply for? Or a special permit? An application for a special permit? An application for site plan? Those are all,
Yeah.
I think that's better than proposal.
So applications for site plan review?
Well, for marijuana cultivation,
Applications for site plan review for marijuana cultivation in the residential district shall comply with the design criteria of 70.4D.
how about just site plan review for marijuana cultivation?
That works too?
I think so.
And at some point, Mr. Chairman, it would make sense for us to have a specific section in site plan review just for marijuana cultivation. So as we learn, as we go along, we can specify it for future boards. You know, this is what you have to look out for.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's true. Like we know. How's that sound?
Good.
Site plan review for marijuana cultivation in residential district shall comply with the design criteria Section 70.4D, planning board has the authority to waive specific design criteria. Great. Now, special permit granted. Under this section shall have a term limited to the duration of the applicant's ownership or lease of the premises for an LME or MMTC. As licensed by the applicable Massachusetts Licensing Authority, any new license for an existing RME or MMTC location or transfer of an existing license to a new owner of an RME or an MMTC shall require a new special permit and shall meet all the requirements and limitations of this bylaw. Fine?
It sounds fine, but I would have said, special permits are not transferable, period.
You say what, Paul?
Special permits are not transferable.
Isn't that what you just said?
Yeah,
We got $5 words in it.
I know, you got $55.
No, I don't think so. It's just $5. We'll leave it alone for now.
Yeah,
Number something.
3.
3, 4, 3.
I think it should actually be 4.
I think.
I'll fix it.
All special permit holders shall promptly advise the planning board and the zoning enforcement officer of any modifications, amendments, or changes to licensing rights, including changes in tiers of canopy cultivation, granted to the special permit holder by the commission, the Cannabis Commission. In the event such modifications, amendments, or changes in the determination of the planning board constitute a material change in the intensity of the use authorized under the terms of the special permit, planning board may require the special permit holder to undergo further site plan review and obtain a modification of the special permit, which we don't have defined anywhere. I don't know what a modification of the special permit is. Because Katie said we can't revoke a special permit. Can we modify a special permit?
Now, Katie, within this, when we say,
Yeah, still there.
Okay.
when we say all special permits shall promptly advise the planning board of changes to licensing rights. So we're also encapsulated in that is if they get their license pulled, they have to tell us, right?
Right.
Okay. Is that it, Paul?
Yeah. Just one other thing. We're giving one special permit to 5 different people who are members of the craft co-op. If one of them is sanctioned by the state, what happens to the other 4?
What happens to their state license?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know what they'll do with that. They may just remove that one location from the license and allow the others to continue. It would depend on what the basis for license revocation was, whether, everybody was involved in some sort of fraudulent concealing or, bad faith something, or whether it could be isolated to one particular member. I think it's a hypothetical that's difficult to answer without specific facts.
Okay.
Hypothetical.
So the state actually takes care of it. We don't have to deal with it.
Yes.
Could be true. Applicability of regulations. Is that where we are now?
Yeah.
E.
Yep.
Okay. The use of land for cultivation, production, processing, manufacturing, assembly, packaging, retail, or wholesale sale, trade, distribution, or dispensing of marijuana for commercial purposes is prohibited unless licensed by all applicable Massachusetts licensing authorities and permitted as an RME or MMTC under this section.
And it's still a federal offense,
Federal. That stands. No problem. Next. The number of RMEs permitted in Truro shall be in accordance with the use table set out in section C.
Should that be RMEs and MMTCs?
That's a good point.
Probably. Yeah.
I think it should be because it's can in two other areas, go back to limitations in one, about line 7. It says all RMEs and MMTCs in one group there shall conform to applicable state regulations. I think that's a good point, Paul.
Okay?
Yep.
A lot of that's all crossed out. Up to number 4.
You're just flying through this, Jessica.
Hours of operation for recreational marijuana retailers and medical marijuana treatment centers shall not exceed the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission, ABCC, maximum hours of operation for liquor licenses not to be drunk on premises pursuant to MGL 138, section 15, but may be limited by conditions of the special permit. The next one, marijuana retailers shall be located in standalone structures. Wasn't there something about that you had brought up, Paul?
Well, the standalone structures takes care of a lot of the problems for us.
I'm not arguing that. I thought you said something about people could live in the place.
Well, standalone structures, we're saying that they're standalone structures, but we're not saying that's the only use within the structure. So if there's an apartment upstairs, that people can live upstairs over the thing and add an extra layer of security to
I'm
the
sorry,
building.
I find that confusing. I just want to say that I think that's a little confusing. That sounds like two uses, as a residential use and as marijuana use. And we're not saying that that's okay. We're saying a standalone unit that is used for medical marijuana or recreational marijuana. Does the board find that that has any bearing in this, at this time? That's all. Does the board want to regulate that? Does the board consider that living over the marijuana establishment is permissible? I think this is the point at which we would decide that.
So, Mr. Chairman, do we allow residential use and liquor store, retail liquor store establishments in town?
Yes, we do. Salty Market has apartments upstairs.
And so does James.
James has an apartment upstairs.
There you go, Jack. There's an answer to that.
Well, should that guide us in?
I don't know how the wording is for that in its regulations, and I'm not sure how to make this sound right. Because this sounds more like marijuana retailers shall be located in standalone structures. Does liquor stores need to be located in standalone structures?
They are.
So that wording isn't there for them. Okay. I'm just asking how to deal with it. If you're fine with the way it sounds and the way it reads, and you can permit someone to live above the retail or whatever part of their business it is, using that wording and not being caught on that wording. Not getting caught with the wording saying you can't do what you're saying you want to do, but we intended you to be able to do it. I've got no suggestions, and I'm going to say that it's fine right now. Yes. General requirements, no RME or MMTC shall be located within 500 feet as measured from each lot line of the subject lot of the following pre-existing uses: public or private schools, providing education in grades K through 12. And that's it?
That's it, we deleted everything else.
That's state law.
Okay. And it doesn't even have to be there. The state law. So why is it there, Paul?
Well, state law might change.
State law. We can pass a bylaw saying that you can be within 100 feet of the school if we want to. Not likely to happen.
I feel like I was thinking that you wanted to go the other direction, which was at least it's stated in the bylaw to make people feel at ease with the restriction. At least it's mentioned. The 500-foot buffer distance under this section shall be measured in a straight line from the nearest point. Did I read this already?
No.
The 500-foot buffer distance under this section shall be measured in a straight line from the nearest point of the property line in question to the nearest point of the property line where the RME or MMTC will be located. Fine. Applicants for an RME or MMTC shall provide the security plan approved by the commission to the police chief, fire chief, health agent, and building commissioner prior to the granting of a special permit.
Can I go back to the,
500 buffer zone?
you know, the person living on the second floor?
Oh, you want to go back to the people
Yeah,
upstairs?
family.
If it's a family?
Yeah. I mean, there are issues where
Access?
yeah, the alcohol situation.
Well, I would hope they have guns to say, to protect.
I just don't want to step into a soft
I get it.
area.
I don't know what to tell you, that's why we couldn't really change the wording there.
No.
But people with children can live upstairs from a liquor store.
They can?
Well, and I was involved in a transaction in Colorado where my client bought an $8 million condo above a pot shop.
A family did? Above a pet shop?
Pot
shop, not pets.
Oh, okay. Okay.
As opposed to
That's precedent anyway.
Yeah, certainly in Colorado there is.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be accessible without authority.
Okay.
I think it's going to be locked up more than a person's guns.
More than a liquor store.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's try not to make it impossible.
No, I understand.
Applicants, oh, we did that one, that was 3. 4, the host community agreement shall be required prior to the granting of a special permit for an RME, for a RME or MMTC.
Well, you know, just to be clear on that, should it say a host community agreement executed by the town and the applicant? I mean, just what is an approved host community agreement? Approved by whom?
Yeah, and I would add to that, after agreement, I would put S in parentheses because this craft cooperative is actually in 2 towns. So we have to see a host community agreement from Wellfleet as well as Truro before we issue the special permit.
Do we, Katie? I don't think so.
Katie said,
Welcome to regulate their own location, and then what their own location is, another need to anything to locally exist.
Could you
But I
understand
agree that you think the word approved to an executed health community agreement, which would, I think, clarify that, the need to find agreement.
She just said we have no jurisdiction over Wellfleet, so we don't need to see their host community agreement or their site plan review or whatever they do.
But we're giving one special permit out.
But not for the Wellfleet location,
So the Wellfleet location needs its own special permit.
yes, yep,
Okay.
or whatever Wellfleet requires.
whatever they do under their bylaw. Or if they required.
So did you hear some of the, what was some, okay, an approved?
So you want to say an executed?
Yes.
That's good.
Did you change that to executed?
Yep.
We did.
Okay.
I'll just try to keep on going without getting into the meaty stuff. Okay, we're up to
Number 5.
no odor from marijuana cultivation, processing, manufacturing, or retail may be noxious or cause a nuisance or danger to public health or impair public comfort and convenience. Marijuana establishments shall incorporate odor control technology and safeguards to ensure that emissions do not violate Board of Health regulations adopted pursuant to MGL Chapter 111, Section 31C, including but not limited to those specified for odors. Read that one, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 6, all business signage, marketing, advertising, and branding shall be subject to the requirements promulgated by the Cannabis Control Commission and the requirements of the Truro zoning bylaw and sign code. In the case of a conflict, the more restrictive requirement shall apply. Fine.
That's good.
Number 7, the hours of operation of the RME and MMTC shall be set by the planning board as a condition of the special permit.
Now, we deal with that twice.
What's that?
I noticed that.
We deal with that twice. First, we say that it has to be the same hours as a liquor store. And now we say that we're going to set it within the special permit. I think that's okay. It just tells us we have to make it part of the special permit.
Okay, okay. We're just going to do that once. I'm going to say it twice. No RME or MMTC shall be located inside a mobile vehicle such as a trailer, van, or truck unless operating as a licensed marijuana transporter, craft marijuana cultivator cooperatives, marijuana cultivators, MMT-CCP, and microbusinesses shall be allowed to utilize movable structures, provided, however, natural screening or other approved screening shall be required as a conditions of the.
A condition.
Yeah, strike the S on the
Let's
conditions.
try, let me try to read this again, because there's
Yeah.
something else that.
Now, here I would put the site plan review before the special permit.
Okay.
Paul wants to be consistent in keeping site plan review mentioned before special
Thank
permit.
you very much, Karen. That's very nice.
Okay, I'm just gonna read this one again. I thought there was something screwy with provided, however. Okay. No RME or MMTC, thank you so much. And shall be located inside a mobile vehicle, such as a trailer, van, or truck, unless operating as a licensed marijuana transporter. Craft marijuana cultivator cooperatives, marijuana cultivators, MMTCCP, and microbusinesses shall be allowed to utilize movable structures, provided, however, natural screening or other approved screening shall be required as a condition of the site plan review or special permit
We could put
approval.
and or.
And there's a plural on condition, right, that should come out. And
Yes. Yeah, I remove that.
Shall be required as a condition of the site plan review and/or special permit approval as necessary to render such structures less visible from public or private ways or abutting properties. The number of movable structures may also be limited as condition of the special permit to no more than 2 per parcel. Additional containers may be allowed if approved by the planning board in connection with site plan review and special permit process.
So that sounds odd to me. They're
Yeah.
saying we're going to limit it to 2 on a special permit. And if you're going to say that, I would say additional containers may be allowed if approved by the planning board in connection with site plan review, period. Because how can we say special permit limits it to 2, but then we can do more on special permit? So I mean, I think that we just would strike in special permit process, just say you can add more with site plan review. Or I'm open to suggestions, but I think it just kind of reads oddly right now.
I thought this was where we said we would allow 2 as like a baseline, and then they could reapply,
Right.
and then they could apply.
Yeah, it's just the
Right.
wording that.
Yes.
What's the best way to say that, Katie?
Sorry, could you pose the question again?
Well, I think the question was, we've said the baseline is 2, but then we can do more. So why do we even say it's 2? Why don't we just say the number of containers would be determined in the site plan review and special permitting process? I mean, because it's odd to say, well, it's going to be 2, but it could be more. Why say 2? You know, I mean, do you agree
Yeah.
that sounds a little odd?
Well, I think by saying two, you give them.
Well, you do get a baseline, yeah.
But kind of look at application that sort of gives them a make their case for having more. I mean, you really could remove the limitation totally and have it be subject to site plan review. 2 sort of gives you a starting place to.
Well, that's true, I agree, and it guarantees them 2, and then more if they demonstrate on their site plan that it's not going to be a problem for anybody.
So I think what we might.
How about we change the wording to additional containers are not allowed unless approved. That just puts a little bit more of a. Not liking it now.
Well, I mean, you can take that whole.
Yeah, you can take it right out there. Remove
Remove what?
the sentence.
Additional containers?
Well, I think we should leave it open to allow for additional ones.
So that opens up all exposure, but abuse.
Yeah, but we have to approve it.
We have to approve it, it'd have to be abused by us. If we're approving it, so I just think we should leave that.
If they can demonstrate the need and show us that, they're well hidden,
Right.
then we can give them the approval. We don't have to. We may.
So I think you could rewrite those two sentences together to make it a little clearer, to say that the number of movable structures shall be limited to no more than 2 per parcel unless additional containers are approved by the planning board through the special permit process.
Okay, you want to say that again?
Yeah.
The number of movable structures shall be limited to no more than 2 per parcel unless additional containers are approved by the planning board in connection with site plan review and special permit process.
Great.
Perfect.
You're pretty fast with those Keats go trucks, Jessica.
Thanks.
Killer
In the
today.
groove.
Carbon paper.
My mother used to help type all my lab reports.
Okay, 9.
9. Number 9. No RME or MMTC shall be located inside a building containing transient housing such as motels or hotels.
Do we want to say cottage colonies and things like that in there?
No.
I mean,
Bruce might want one cottage.
when we're talking about a standalone building, you can expect that condominiums have,
Standalone buildings.
they'll have their own rules and regulations there. But there are some early condominium conversions that don't have those things. Do we want to end up with a pot shop in a condo complex?
I would imagine you would have.
And you're talking about existing conversions, not pending conversions.
You don't have enough control? to say it's inappropriate?
No, I'm just wondering.
I don't know, I feel like you have plenty of like,
Okay.
no way. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll defer to Karen. My head is spinning. Yeah, here we go. Let's leave it alone for now. I think it's okay. Got me thinking about it now. All right, I'm going to read number 10. To ensure compatibility with the residential character of Truro and the surrounding neighborhood, all enclosed buildings and structures permitted for use by an RME or MMTC, including all structures for cultivation and processing, shall be limited in size in proportion to lot size. The total aggregate floor area of all enclosed buildings and structures, but not including livable floor area utilized for an RME or an MMTC permitted hereunder, shall not exceed 25% of the total lot area unless the planning board determines that increased lot coverage would not have a detrimental impact to the neighborhood.
That sounds good to me. There was,
Only if you tell me I've got 2 acres, how much of my property is covered with buildings?
well, 2 acres would be 87,000 square feet. And a quarter of that would be 21,750.
21,000
Yeah.
square feet of buildings?
Yeah, so 2 acres. But the section that was just deleted said something about
Oh, sorry.
marijuana cultivation being in one-story high buildings.
Here,
You
sorry.
want to leave that out? Because that stops the 2.5 story with 3 layers of.
Yeah, we don't want elevators in these buildings.
No, that's, I don't know if that's the point. I don't know if that's the point. I mean, the building
Mr. Chairman,
has the height to have 2 tiers of growing. That's actually less coverage on the land.
That's true.
Yes, it is.
So I don't want to say that I want more land covered because the buildings are only 1 story high. Not that I want 2-story buildings, but a height that provides 2 tiers of canopy reduces the footprint on the ground by 50%. So
It's a
before you,
half.
Well, it might not even be 50%.
well, I don't know. I don't want to just make it. Jack.
here again, on the other bylaw that we're supporting for a proposed fall town meeting, we're addressing building sizes in residential areas. And I just see that the way this is written here, you could wind up with huge warehouses in residential zones. We set on limiting house sizes. We wanted to limit or avoid any more 10,000 square foot buildings in residential zones. And clearly we could have exactly
20,000
that.
square foot building in a residential zone
Exactly that. And that just to me is,
on 2 acres of land.
totally unacceptable.
Somewhere.
You have any solution,
I
Jack?
believe there's 12.
Or you just see that that's the
Square feet of
conflict?
building in the vineyard.
Well, I mean, if I could see a compromise of a 5,000 square foot structure and 10,000 square feet of canopy. If you had to do some kind of combination of uses. But also keeping in mind that when you hit a threshold of 10,000 square feet of a industrial use, which is what this would be, it's an automatic trigger for a DRI.
Remind the board at this point that that's true. That just adds more hurdles to growers if they were to try to utilize 10,000 square feet of growing space. Or you believe that that would include greenhouses? Jack?
Not hoop houses, but barns.
Well,
I don't think it would include greenhouses, would it, Jack?
I don't think so.
But greenhouses don't have tiers. I mean, they don't grow every 6 feet in height.
Mr. Chairman, I have a chart here, and which I can circulate to the other members. But essentially, if we're to consider being compatible with what we sense is necessary in a residential zone, on 1.5 acres, I would say that we would limit 4,750 square feet of buildings, not including greenhouses or livable floor area.
And that would be in conjunction with our house size bylaw?
Yes, we'd be respecting that, respecting what we're saying is important in residential zones. And then, you would incorporate a 500 square foot bump for every contiguous acre. So on a 2-acre plot, you could have 5,000 square feet of buildings, not including greenhouses or livable floor area. And then if you had a 5-acre lot, that would be equivalent to 6,500 square feet of building. So in other words, we're thinking in terms of a residential application. Now, if you wanted to put it into a business district, you might want to be able to, you might have some wiggle room there, but essentially what our greatest concern is here is what could happen to the rural residential character here in town if we aren't really smart about this.
I'm not feeling really smart about it at this moment, I'll be honest with you, because I'm not able to comprehend the two bylaws in conjunction. And I can see the problem, but I can't see the solution yet.
Well, we're talking about
Lot coverage.
building mass. Well, but you're mixing apples and oranges again. Building mass is measured from the exterior walls of the building. Now, lot area is, much different than that.
Well, this is kind of tough to get clear. And which number would be, the 25% of lot area is the number that's a problem. We prefer to see just a number, plus or minus 500. Trying to follow along with the guidelines for a house size bylaw.
Yes.
But you're not going to count a greenhouse.
Well,
We already excluded it, it says that.
I think that could be part of the thought process here, where we would be emphasizing greenhouse structures versus steel buildings.
Does anyone on the board here understand the conflict and trying to solve this out so that we don't bury the house bylaw because you're saying you can build?
I think that's going to require a little bit of thought.
I think so too, and I think this is one of
If we're talking about structures that need a building permit, that's one thing. If we're talking about hoop houses, that's another thing. And some of the hoop houses could go up 28 feet. I mean, you can find those huge structures. We might be able, through the special permitting process, limit the size of these things, which would be, something 28 feet you're going to see for quite a distance, especially if it's white. If it's only 10 feet or 15 feet high, that's a different story. In fact, it's half as high. So, I think that we should consider what our options are there, and it'll probably take a little bit of time. And we've been at this for 3.5 hours now, and it would be nice if we could get a clean copy of what we have now. And I'd like to do a rundown on what the 6A limited business district lot by lot is on either side to see, how much interference there are back and forth. And I'd like to give some thought to the different sizes of buildings and see what that means.
Well, I agree with Paul and with Jack's comments too. I mean, I think we've made a lot of progress and we've really reached a critical point here. And I know that in initial talks, with High Dune, they weren't as concerned about building size as they were, the greenhouses, because their intent at that point when I was talking with them was to grow in greenhouses. So it might be worth talking asking them a little later again about it, but what they could support. But I really think we do need to think about it, get our clean copy, and come back at our next meeting. And unfortunately, I mean, I just think that it's just too complex and critical for us to be, at 10 o'clock at night, 9:45, trying to work on this. So I would just ask if we could adjourn to our next meeting and start here, and everybody think about building size and lot coverage.
And Mr. Chairman, if we could get Jessica to give us a clean copy of what we've done so far.
Yeah, I can do that.
That
But
would
I
be-
would suggest not waiting until our next, that's in 2 more weeks. And the Board of Selectmen are meeting on Tuesday. I would think we would want to give them something before, our next meeting's not till October 10th.
Oh, you might really be away then?
So I think we should do something like next week in the,
I mean, I can if everybody else can next week, or
I might not be here.
I mean, I think our goal would be to refer something to the Board of Selectmen. If they have a meeting on Tuesday,
I could be here the first week of October.
They got a meeting on Tuesday.
they have a meeting this coming Tuesday.
I'm hoping to get through this thing.
you should be here next week.
So we're talking the 25th.
We're at an impasse. I apologize. I can't just push on. I think that we have reached.
Could we do something Monday or Tuesday? Or,
I can't be.
and Steve's gone the following week though.
You're gonna be there all week? You're leaving tomorrow?
I gave her 2 weeks, but I don't think she'll need that. I'm hoping that will be back by the 1st.
What about Friday? If I,
Truro Treasures Weekend?
what about tomorrow?
Paul's leaving tomorrow
Oh,
for a family, personal family matter. And then when do you leave?
So I don't know what we would do.
Well,
Some babies take 9 months.
I don't know where we're going with this. We're going to have to carry on even in spite of who is here or not here. That's what's going to have to happen. Otherwise, we can't get it to the selectmen. And there is a good chance that we'll need to open a public hearing, because this is vastly different. In
it's
my
not
mind.
as different as it's.
I want to say it only just to say it,
Yeah.
that it's, the response has been that somehow people want to start talking about it. And that's not a bad thing, but I don't know if it helps us. And how do we get finished with this? Okay, I'm gonna say Paul is leaving right away, and the selectmen meeting is coming right up. Paul might not be here. And we may have to continue to take this up. So the opportunity to take it up is either Friday or Monday. Anybody have an opinion on those 2 days?
On which days, I'm sorry?
Friday or
Friday or
Monday?
I
Monday.
can do either day.
Jack?
I'm available either day.
Bruce?
I'm available either day.
Mike?
Monday would be better.
Monday would be better.
We would have to do, we have a ZBA meeting at 5:30, so we just have to be done by 5:30. We could probably do it here beforehand. I would just have to confirm with the town administrator's office in the morning that the room's available.
Can Mike do it before 5:30?
Yes.
Okay. Katie, are you free on Monday afternoon?
What time are you talking about? We'll look right to here.
2:30. 2 o'clock. 1 o'clock.
On Monday.
I could do from 1 to 2. After 2 o'clock, I have another commitment.
12 to 2.
I could be available 12 to 2.
Is that going to be?
Yes.
That should be enough, and we're not that much more to go.
All right. We're gonna try to meet here if we have the space to meet.
Yes, I will email first thing in the morning to make sure the room's available.
So what day do we do?
The 24th, I believe.
Otherwise, we could maybe do it in the library.
Is that the day we're talking about, the 24th?
Monday, the 24th?
Time?
12.
It's gonna be tough. I believe I'm gonna be in Hyannis from 10 to 11.
What about, would Friday be better then? Or Tuesday morning?
I don't think Tuesday will be appropriate at all.
Okay.
Today's Wednesday. Unlikely we'll get together tomorrow.
Jessica, if I have some thoughts, can I use can I email you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Do you want me to email them here, or do you want me to email them to KP Law?
Here's fine, thank you. Yeah, that'd be perfect. And I'll circulate a clean copy
I have
before.
about 3 pages of stuff to go through yet.
Maybe we should get that over to you. If you can get it one, you have to be in Hyannis till 11.
What day is that, Monday? We're gonna try for Monday at noon.
Monday at noon.
Do the best we can, that's all.
Well, one page is the security plan, resource plan, and traffic study. Those will be, you don't want any problems with that, so it shouldn't, it's not
Are
really.
you saying it's a piece of cake?
Just two pages. You can do it.
And the special permit. That special permit will be the the defining thing when it comes to,
So it means Monday, September 24th at 12 o'clock?
12 o'clock, yep, for now. But just check your town email tomorrow morning and I'll confirm.
Fair enough.
Or I'll have everyone, I can have it. No,
This meeting should probably end if we can. Is there anything else you want to say to us?
No. I think-
Katie? Thank you so much for...
thank you, Katie, I hope you're home.
Yeah, thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, yeah.
This meeting is now over. We will reconvene. Good night.